Hello, hello. I'm back. I know some of you thought I wasn't gonna make it back. StreamYard's playing with me today too. I tried to record a video earlier. It was lagging. I just did one, lagging. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. We're gonna have problems with StreamYard here. Hello, welcome back. I am here. No rest for the wicked. I was feeling a little down yesterday. We're back at it. We're back at it. What's up? Hi, happy New Year's Eve. I hope you guys are doing well. I plan to be live all day, so hopefully you guys can come and hang out. Hello, 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 hello. I am back. We're back with Crazy Gypsy. Are you feeling okay, Melly? Yeah, I am. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. Let's talk about Gypsy though. Hello, hello. Yay! All my babes are here. Hi, babelets. We do have a Kenzie live later, so I'll see how I'm feeling by then, but I think we'll be okay. I think we'll be okay. You guys know I'm a tough cookie, but let me say hello to everyone and hello everyone viewing. Welcome in all the viewers, subscribers, members, the haters. Hello, shout out to you. Today's live is Back to Gypsy Rose. We're going to read a little bit about the men of Gypsy Rose. I know we already read about Nick. Now we're going to read about the previous men, and then we're going to read about Gypsy's life starting from before the murder, 1991 to 2000. So there's 5 different parts based on the years that I'm going to cover. And this information, I believe, has been gathered by Into the Weeds. And everyone needs to calm down. Everyone needs to calm down. I'm getting a lot of comments. I don't claim to be Gypsy profesh. And everyone can talk about what they want to talk about. It's a free world. And so everyone needs to just chill. I'm not like a professional in the Gypsy stuff. We have just started deep diving. This is only part 3. So just chill out, take a deep breath. No one here in specific in the chat, but I got a lot of comments like, do you even know about Gypsy Rose? And I'm like, dude, chill out. There's so much. We're learning it together. So anyways, I appreciate you guys for being here. Please, please, please hit the like button. Do all of the YouTube thingies, like, hype, notifications. I'll say hello to all of you really quick. And then we're going to start with David Blanchard. There's not too much on him, but we'll go from him to Richard, to Dan, to Sebastian. Then I want to watch an interrogation interview with Gypsy's dad and the stepmom. So I did get those from ITTW as well. I link everything in the description. I'm a little behind on the descriptions, but just give me a minute. It's just me. But shout out to you guys for being here. I love and appreciate you guys. I saw Debbie. I saw Evie. Hello, hello. I saw Abuelita. Abuelita's here to keep me in check. Hello, Bop and Robin. Happy New Year. Who in the world asks such questions, Melly? Man, you tell me. You tell me. Can a girl just live? Jeez. Anyways. Anyone that claims to be an expert is full of poop. There's massive amount of documents. It takes a lot. Yeah, and everybody does things differently. Like I know everyone does their own coverage, and I'm doing it how I want to do it. And I hope you guys enjoy it. So there's a lot to take in and perceive differently. I saw Kimmy. Kimmy's in here. I said shout out to Kimmy for always having facts as well. Nancy, hello. Did I say Debbie? Hey, Q. And I saw Patty and the Natty. New Orleans lady, hello, hello. Welcome in. Oh, and I saw Renee in here. Enriquez Uncensored, hello, hello to you. Tom, and let's get started. I did just do a live on Melly, do you girl? Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, girl. I did just do a video on the Stefan Diggs, Cardi B. I know it's not really true crime, but I'm into it. Anytime there's a police report and I can get my hands on it, I'm doing it. And I just took it down because I'm going to make it into a video. I need to edit. StreamYard be doing me so dirty lately. I can't handle it. And so I'm going to make it into a video, maybe do some editing on it, but I'll be posting that after this live. Please, please, please. Yes. Listen to Evie, hit the like. Okay. I'm going to shut the fuck up. Let me bring up. Can you guys see this or no? Can you guys see the screen? Let me know if you can read it or if I'm too big or too little. Not sure. Wait, let me see. Hold on. Maybe okay, I think I like this one better, so we'll keep this one. I feel like you guys might be able to see the screen better. So we're gonna start with David Blanchard. I was just asking Kimmy in the chat too, because David was I know they have the same last name, but from what I'm getting and gathering is they were not related. So David is just, I believe, a friend and a neighbor. Kimmy said earlier that he's the one who crawled into the where's that comment? Um Him and his wife saw the scary post on the Dee Gyp page about how Dee was dead, not concerned for Gypsy on them. He was the neighbor that went over to the house and climbed through the kitchen window. So that's interesting. But anyways, this article basically talks about I'm not gonna go through the BDSM stuff. You guys know that Gypsy, they're not related, no. Gypsy was like into well, what we're the gathering is BDSM. And allegedly, this David Blanchard was very heavily involved in the BDSM community, according to this document. I'm not going to cover all of it because I just want to get to the Gypsy part. But he was heavily involved, as you can tell from this article. It basically says he was involved with 𝐻𝐸𝐺𝐸. He appeared to enjoyed like making stuff, skimpy bras, women's belly attire. He assisted in Ground Zero, which is a Springfield goth nightclub. Um, I know there's been like a lot of controversy with the recent files released of Gypsy and the whole BDSM thing. And some say that even he got to the that he got her into the BDSM. So I don't know about that. It just kind of goes into the BDSM community here, but I did, and I'm gonna skip through some parts that I have to redact, but I did find it interesting because this article states that there was like some kind of fundraiser that was held for Gypsy and that he put it together and it had something to do with like hey beautiful Augie, good to see you, my love. Yeah, like weird BDSM stuff. But I did want to start here. It says this was a group who awarded Gypsy Rose Blanchard an honorary membership in 2010. Quote unquote, Squad 66 gained its first honorary squad member, Gypsy Rose. There was not a dry eye in the crowd at the closing ceremonies as little girl with such a big heart gave her momentous acceptance speech. Now, I don't know about this part, but right here it says Gypsy Rose presented with honorary membership to, I guess it's like a BDSM club. 501 Legion, a Star Wars Imperial. Oh, it's a costuming group. While 501 was initially founded to unite customers with a penchant for Star Wars villainy, one of our real world missions is to bring good to our communities through volunteer charity. Okay, so I guess that wasn't like a BDSM fundraiser, but they helped put together that. But this is someone who allegedly was into BDSM and connected to Gypsy Rose costumes like cosplay. Yeah. Right here it says, I made progress this weekend with Gyp Blanchard. So here he was doing some kind of costume stuff. It says David Blanchard was also a member of the 70th Garrison, a local chapter of the 501 First Street. Both of these groups carry out fantastic work that shouldn't be overshadowed by our research. However, we couldn't help but believe that at least some of these members of the group, which includes close friends of David, as well as people who worked at VisionCon, must have been aware of David's involvement with Ground Zero, okay, association, his links to BDSM, but apparently not. What with his work at VisionCon and the 501 Legion, as well as the 70th Garrison, David Blanchard had a busy life, but he still found time to engage on the forums he was now a member of. Also seen on the same VisionCon forum at the same time, David Blanchard was a lady called Dee Dee. Dee Dee had been a member of the forum since 2006. I think there's a typo. Now, I don't know. Hey, Amanda. If that's Dee Dee Blanchard, but apparently it is. this article, I think it might be. It says, we cannot state that this is Dee Dee Blanchard or Gypsy posing as Dee Dee, which we believe Gypsy sometimes did, but we also cannot say it isn't. In his 2015 police interview, David Blanchard claimed he didn't know Gypsy could walk, but evidence suggests otherwise. For example, David attended a small friends gathering just over a month after Gypsy, quote unquote, ran away from her home in 2011, where the person who claims to have contacted Dee Dee to come and get Gypsy from Dan's house was present with her husband, both of whom worked with David Blanchard at two different venues, including 𝐷𝐿𝐴. They were work colleagues. They were buddies outside of work, but they never conversed with David. Their work colleague times two, I don't know what that means, their buddy about Gypsy's escapade. We don't buy that. Kimberly Blanchard, which is married to David, started working at 𝐷𝐿𝐴 in 2009 as the events club coordinator and married David shortly after. By 2012, David was the president of the 𝐷𝐿𝐴, the top dog, and would continue in that role until 2015. We would like to know how this happened given David Blanchard's association with not only Ground Zero, but also with 𝐈𝐨. Did anybody object? And there's some Facebook posts and whatnot. It kind of gets into like the whole BDSM thing, which I don't really want to get into. But this article says, we have always shoot aside theories that anyone other than Nick and Gypsy were involved in the murder of Dee Dee Blanchard, but what we have seen and researched has opened our minds towards other possibilities. So there's some pictures I'm not going to show, but it says David Blanchard stated in 2018, quote unquote, Gypsy was unable to walk anywhere. I myself have picked her up and transported her between, couches and beds and vehicles. And he stated that in Gypsy's Revenge in 2018. Must have been his cigarette butts on the crime scene outside. Yeah. I kind of agree with that. This article says bullshit, and this is a website based off of the FOIA document. So if that ever happened, we don't think Dee Dee Blanchard would have allowed David anywhere near Gypsy if she had been aware of his association with BDSM. Research suggests that Gypsy Rose Blanchard may not have held the same reservations. There's images we're going to skip for YouTube purposes. It says BDSM and role-playing is often highlighted as being a feature in Gypsy Rose and Nick 𝐿𝐴𝐧's relationship. And Gypsy lays the blame for this entirely, and we feel unjustly at Nicholas 𝐿𝐴𝐧's door, but we know that Nick and Gypsy weren't the only characters in this case associated with BDSM. Suspicion has always surrounded David Blanchard's role in the murder of Dee Dee Blanchard, and he hasn't helped himself in this by lying his way through immediate events following Dee Dee's horrific murder. Whilst our research doesn't place David Blanchard at the murder scene, it looks like the kind of event David may have been interested in attending. Gypsy Rose Blanchard asserted that she wanted Dee Dee's death to be painless, but what part of using a KVD curved knife with a 6-inch blade shouts out painless? It sounds pretty sadistic method to say the least, as it is proved to be, and the manner of Dee Dee's death has just jumped out to us throughout this particular area of research. Nick is adamant that Dee Dee was alive when he attacked her and says she cried out for help. We are not questioning what may have happened before Nick arrived. Alive means breathing. Alive can also apply a state of unconsciousness. Nick was pretty adamant that he inflicted 4 stab wounds on Dee Dee's back and one cut on her neck. But Dee Dee was stabbed 17 times and sustained 2 cuts on the back of her neck. We talked about this in the previous live, how that was interesting, right? In the interrogation where Nick remembers that he stabbed Dee Dee 4 times. And my theory was always that Gypsy participated and maybe held her arms down. And they tried getting a taser too. Exactly, Kimmy. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think of that. But here's a picture of the playroom, which we did go into the crime scene photos, and we're not done. We're going to continue with the crime scene photos, maybe in the next live. But we did see the playroom. And this says, we are continuing to deep dive this subject, uncovering weird coincidence as we go. For example, when David was president of 𝐷𝐿𝐴, his organization was sponsored by Crimson Room, a popular online role-playing game. Vampire versus werewolf. And Gypsy's quote unquote play shed was a large blue plastic container labeled vampires and werewolves. That's a strange box of tricks for an alleged abused, terrified for her life, Tricks for an alleged abuse, terrified for her life, and watched over Gypsy to possess. And so the dig continues, and now it focuses on Gypsy and her potential links to BDSM. This says after the murder. In 2025, newly released court documents revealed that a Canon digital camera was discovered in a backpack Gypsy had taken to Nick's house following Dee Dee's murder. A 4 GB memory card was found in the camera. The camera and the memory card were never admitted into evidence at Nick's trial. Nicholas Godejohn's 2022 appeal defense team requested a copy of the contents of the camera and memory card, and their request was denied. So I wanted to go over that part because shake my head. Yeah. Why wasn't that included into evidence? I think that's important. It says, why? It makes no sense at all that this request would be denied. What exactly is on the camera and memory card? Nick's defense team were told the camera belongs to Gypsy, and the motion to have it admitted was denied. The camera belonged to Dee Dee. If there's nothing to hide, why deny the request? And this picture right here to the left is the contents of Gypsy's backpack during her arrest. And then over here, it shows right here a zoom in into a digital camera. So this part of the article, present day, states in a Reddit post, they pointed out that someone in the Blanchard camp wants the Vision Con group to be quiet. It was also pointed out that Kim Blanchard was one responsible for fundraising for Gypsy's trip to the Oli Foundation in New York. However, once news about Dee Dee's murder was known, it quickly turned into a fundraiser for her funeral. The attached screenshots also show that Bobby and Christy were commenting on a Facebook group regarding the case. However, after a while, their comments were deleted. It also seems Bobby was involved in fundraising for children needing wheelchairs. So the Blanchards threatening VisionCon people to be quiet, and Kim Blanchard being responsible for fundraising. So this, I think it looks like a Facebook message. It says, my opinion is that Gypsy is as good as a liar as her mother and should still be in jail. Like I said, Dan has moved on and doesn't like talking about it. I don't blame him. Gypsy had opportunities to tell someone and didn't. And now she is out and is still a manipulator and needs help. You will find that many people in this area don't want to talk about it anymore. And many of us have gotten threats and hesitant to talk. By the way, how did you find my name? So it says, content creator Trixie obtained prison interviews of David Blanchard, which we're going to go over here. It shows us that David and his group, I'm sorry, not David, Rod. David Blanchard, it shows us that David and his group were made aware that Gypsy underwent experimental procedures and was meant to go to a group home should something happen to Dee Dee. Makes you wonder what else David Blanchard knows. We're not going to go over David Blanchard's interview today, but we're going to go over her dad's and her stepmom. So let's move on from David. I kind of just wanted to touch base on him really quick in that whole BDSM thing. And now we're going to move on to Richard King. These are the men of Gypsy's past. Well, she learned from her mama. Exactly. Hey, Robert. What's VisionCon? It's some cosplay company. I don't know. I didn't know about it. I want you to see your dad's interview. Yeah, we're going to cover it today. So let me pull up the history on Richard. I saw another Gypsy video where Gypsy said her mom taught her to not be arrogant, be humble, and she isn't the center of the universe yet. Years later, she said Dee Dee taught her to lie, cheat, and steal. I don't believe like anything that comes out of Gypsy's mouth, but that's just me. Okay, so here, this is Dee Dee eventually, we're covering Richard King, an older lover. Dee Dee eventually found her in a hotel room with a man allegedly in a state of undress. We've all heard and read the story, and most of the time we're left scratching our heads or picking up our jaws from the floor. But if there was actual truth into this lore, let's get to know Richard King. So I'll go back to that picture, but it says Gypsy Rose has talked about being involved virtually with men to get attention. prior to murdering her mother, Dee Dee. Her mother reportedly refused to allow Gypsy to have an older man she had met online come to the house. Gypsy Rose was doing a lot of online freaky stuff. In the prison emails, you can see her claiming Dee Dee called this man Richard Keene, threatening him with police as Gypsy was allegedly underage and he never spoke to her again. I'll go back to that image. After searching for a Richard King living in the Springfield, Missouri area around the time of the murder, one man seemed to fit the description Gypsy has given, though slightly younger than she claimed. This man had a criminal record, including restraining orders, domestic violence, and a sexual misconduct charge. As it was noted, the lawyer representing Mr. King in the sexual misconduct was Mike Stanfield. Further research revealed a Richard King on SM also matching the descriptors Gypsy had given. Cross-checking friends list as more alternate accounts were discovered, it appears these accounts were also linked to Dan and Kim Blanchard. Some of the accounts believed to be Keene stopped posting between 2014 to 2015. Is it possible this is a man Dee Dee threatened to call the cops for communicating with her daughter? And here are the Missouri courts, the charges for such Richard King. Let's go back to this. It says, hi, I just wanted to talk to you about a concern regarding the book. I want for this to be as honest to reality as possible. So being open and real about the way I felt and my actions in the past are important. When I was going over events with Redacted yesterday, she brought up some of the texts between Redacted and I on the night of the crime. Basically, in a nutshell, I don't want the relationship between he and I to be over romanticized. Oh, other platforms have done, I think that's not right. Other platforms have done that to where they make her and I sound like Bonnie and Clyde, when that is not the case. Very few know that starting in 2011, when I was on my secret Facebook account, I met many men online and confessing my undying love to each and every one of them, saying things like, "You are the love of my life." I was 18 to 19 years old and believed I was in love with each one I would meet. Redacted being one of them and the main target of my obsession after the night I ran away to be with him. However, because I was infatuated with Redacted, it didn't stop me from flirting and even enticing other men online. I met someone as old as 50 years old. His name is Richard Keene from Missouri. My mother found his and my conversations on Facebook when she eventually caught me using Facebook on her laptop. She actually called him on the phone, threatened calling the police, claiming I was underage. He never spoke to me again. My point is, I was young and maturing beyond Disney fairy tale movies. The concept of true love was blurred to me, so any man would have received such claims of love from me, and that is what I want to showcase rather than Redacted and I being quote unquote in love. I was not in love with Redacted. He was just another object of my obsession to have someone love me and the idea of Prince Charming that I placed on so many others before him. When in reality, my relationship with Redacted was very unhealthy and toxic. It was dark and fucked up, and all I asked is to be true to the facts and feelings that occurred. Y'all are doing an amazing job. I trust y'all 100%. So, while we acknowledge that Mike Stanfield was still a public defender at this time, isn't it too convenient that he's defended another shady individual that's in the orbit of Gypsy Rose Blanchard? It makes you think, doesn't it? Speculations and rumors say that Mike Stanfield was already familiar with Gypsy Rose through the local BDSM scene, or quote unquote Little's play. Even Gypsy says, quote unquote, I've known him for a long, long time, but fails to assert that means since she was arrested for her murder of her mother. We see her face lights up with joy whenever she talks about Mike. You couldn't get us to be all giddy with our attorneys, now unless there's a big settlement involved. Disney movies don't teach BDSM. Little's play. Exactly. So there's a little bit of history on Richard. Now let's move on with Dan. Dan, is it Glidewell? I apologize if I'm saying that wrong. And this is labeled The Obsession. So just kind of getting a little bit of background of these men as we continue to deep dive the Gypsy Rose information. After we are finished with the men, maybe we'll watch some few interviews, and then I'm going to go into We're gonna go into Gypsy's childhood. Juicy stuff, yeah. Shout out to you guys for being here. So Dan, it says, before we begin, the man on the right is not Dan. Let's not bring this up anymore. It's been a decade already. Let's not muddy the water. So I guess this was never the Dan of Gypsy Rose Blanchard. But this on the left, this is the real Dan. And he was Gypsy Rose's original obsession. So it says this is a man she went to see in a hospital where she knocked on her neighbor's door asking for a ride so she can visit him. This is a man she wanted to run away with, her binder of IDs in tow. This proves that Gypsy had means to ask for help and could stand and walk away at a minute's notice, but she chose not to. I didn't know. I don't know that much about it. Yeah. I didn't really either. So Gypsy was walking. We know that. Like Gypsy Rose, Dan was very active during 𝐷𝐿𝐴𝐽𝐿, quote unquote. I'm sorry, parentheses. He even goes back to attending it in 2001 and even helped run it. He was also an esteemed member of the group. This is a real Dan whose number Gypsy has memorized during her interrogation. This is a Dan that Gypsy wanted to meet up for a coffee and wanted to say goodbye when she was with 𝐞𝐥𝐥𝐲 after killing her mother. It says Mr. Glidewell, Dan, would testify that Gypsy messaged him in June of 2015, close in time to the murder, asking to meet for coffee and to say goodbye. He did not know if she wanted to have sex or just to say goodbye, but he thought better of it and did not go. He will testify that he learned after the fact that Gypsy's mother was dead when she asked to meet with him. Counsel's failure to investigate and call Dan was as a witness at trial resulted in prejudice to Mr. 𝐌𝐞𝐥𝐥𝐲-𝐕𝐞𝐫𝐬𝐞. Yikes. There's a lot of shady stuff. Ooh, this is him. She ran away to see him. Yes. History. Gypsy has often claimed that she met Dan back during 𝐷𝐿𝐴𝐽𝐿 in 2011, but our research shows that this is false. Gypsy met Dan during 𝐷𝐿𝐴𝐽𝐿 in 2009, and we have the pictures to prove it. In fact, we know Gypsy had an almost perfect attendance in 𝐷𝐿𝐴𝐽𝐿 except in 2012. Although Gypsy has claimed that it was 𝐞𝐥 who introduced her to the world of BDSM, we are confident that it was Gypsy who introduced both 𝐞𝐥 and Dan to the world of BDSM. Shocked. You guys agree with that? I do. Could Gypsy have been the one um instigating and really into this BDSM? I'm sorry, after I watched those Demona videos, part 1, and we were all shook. I don't doubt that. I really don't. That Gypsy was the one who introduced such things to 𝐞𝐥 and Dan. I mean, after watching 𝐞𝐥's interview as well, interrogation. I don't doubt that. So it says Dan was deeply interested in RPG and LARP, and he even took part of a LRP performance back during 𝐷𝐿𝐴𝐽𝐿. And here's some photos. Is this Gypsy in the wheelchair? Who is that? So it says left 𝐷𝐿𝐴𝐽𝐿 2009 pics showing Dan in attendance, right Dan in 𝐷𝐿𝐴𝐽𝐿 as a stormtrooper when Gypsy donned her pink stormtrooper costume. So yeah. I think Gypsy is a little cray-cray. Yeah, I know. Yeah, she was really into it. She was experienced. Hey, beautifully broken. Yeah, that is her. It says it is her at the bottom of it. Interesting. We call Dan as Gypsy's obsession because this girl was relentless that she even stayed in touch, though he was in a serious relationship back then. See screenshots. In fact, she even went as far as introducing herself to his friends before meeting 𝐞𝐥. So this screenshot of the text message says, hi, I just wanted to say sorry, but if I was a little rude, but I'm kind of dealing with a lot of stuff between, by the way, I'm Gypsy. It's nice to meet you. That was on October 9th, 2012 at 1:46 a.m. And then this article, sorry guys, hold on. Oh, I just got the nicest message. Okay. He said, sorry for that. This part of the court document says he would testify that they stayed in contact online until 2014 when he had a serious girlfriend. Even after telling her he was no longer interested, Gypsy continued for a long time to send highly provocative messages and images to try and get him to respond. Gypsy learned that he and his girlfriend broke up and mentioned that she had a boyfriend, Nick. Dan felt that she would try to manipulate him to come to her rescue by using Nick to make him jealous. Um, Jane says, "Yup, she's a master manipulator. Learned that from her mom." Hey, TS. Um, Gypsy's sick. To make matters worse, Dan was married at the time and even had kids. Though we aren't sure if the couple reconciled, we can say we understand why his ex-wife wouldn't have taken him back. Role playing and BDSM connections. 3:24 p.m. The defense attorney calls Dan. He met Gypsy at a convention. Dan kept in contact with Gypsy via video chat. He says that Gypsy told him her mother made her stay in a wheelchair and had unnecessary medical treatment. He says that the relationship developed from a friendship to a sexual relationship. They would send explicit videos to each other. He discusses how they role played occasionally. He referred to Gypsy as being shy and timid. He says he developed a taste of power exchange role playing from her. He says she would send nude photos and dress up in costumes and use various fictitious names. Dan says he was injured and that Gypsy visited him while he was in the hospital. She told him she wanted to go to Arkansas to restart her life. Such an innocent little girl, right? I know. She's a weirdo. I have to save that page. Yes, save it. But she said she didn't know it was medical abuse till after her arrest. Exactly. Gypsy is a little freak. And this just further convinces me, in my opinion only, that she manipulated Nick the entire time in the relationship and to commit this crime for her. As we mentioned earlier, we are confident that Gypsy, who introduced Dan and Nick to the world, was the one who introduced Dan and Nick to the world of BDSM. The foils also reveal the things Gypsy did with Dan were not scripted, and this continued when she was with Nick. In fact, it was Gypsy's own will that she sent Dan a video of herself using a toothbrush for pleasure. I didn't know that part, you guys. I had not. When I saw that, I'm like, "Excuse me? Come again?" It says, when VisaCon in Springfield, Missouri in early 2011, he would testify that they communicated by Facebook or cell phone. Gypsy switched her Facebook accounts and usernames often. During this time period, they engaged in sexting and sent sexually explicit content to one another. Gypsy knew what she was doing sexually. In contemplating having sexual intercourse together, Gypsy told him that she did not need her wheelchair and could move around like any normal girl. Gypsy sent him naked images of herself, including images of masturbating with a toothbrush. He would testify that Dee Dee called him and told him to stay away from Gypsy, claiming she was underage, but Gypsy claimed she was 18 and had identification to prove her age. At one point, he stopped communicating with her because of the age question. Gypsy continued to contact him, pleaded with him to stay in contact with her, and continued to insist she was of age. Now, that's not how you use your toothbrush, Gypsy. LOL. Gross and ew, says Vanjie. I did. She sent the same thing to Nick. Yeah, she said in an interview she never knew her real age. Yeah. LMAO, good one. This dispels the claim that it was Nick who mentioned that he introduced Gypsy to the world of BDSM. Not only that, this also dispels Gypsy's claim that Nick was her first boyfriend, when in fact, she's already met Richard Keene and Sebastian, then Dan at this point. I can't even believe Gypsy had all these men. That's why she needed new teeth. She was using a toothbrush in the wrong place. Sick. It's sick, you guys. It's sickening. Yeah, you guys also the same thing. Contrary to her claim that Nick had an alter ego named Victor, who was a 500-year-old vampire. We were unable to find Nick in any vampire costumes or shown interest in anything related to vampires. Disclaimer, I always say I'm a vampire, so I don't want to get it twisted. I'm not a freaking Gypsy Rose type of vampire. So I just want to make that clear. Um Dan has definitely dressed up as a vampire before. We believe Gypsy continued this fantasy with Nick. You know, I feel some type of way about the whole Nick thing. Dan's role in Gypsy's life. Dan played a pivotal role in Gypsy's life, both as a friend and a romantic interest. She saw her as a I think he saw her as a potential partner. Through this did not last long. Gypsy saw Dan as her confidant and she shared many stories and fantasies with him. They shared a lot of similarities from role playing to deviant sexual acts. So these are some screenshots and it says Dee Dee and Gypsy Blanchard case discussion. Oh, okay. So I thought I read somewhere that Gypsy at this point went to a neighbor's house a couple years ago and begged for a ride to Mercy Hospital to visit her boyfriend. The neighbor, I believe, took her and brought her back. Is that true? Anyone else read that? And then it says, I read that she was dropped off and arrived at a place with said boyfriend where Dee Dee came and got her and made a huge deal about it. And then this person, it says, yep, it was my husband who took her. This side says Stephanie. She had a blonde wig on and she looked pale. My husband will never forget her voice either. Someone responds, she says, no. She says she lived in the Habit for Humanity subdivision and we had never seen her before that night. She did not act very skittish and nervous. My husband said she was very odd acting in his truck and kept clutching her purse like it was a dog or something. Someone responds and says, I agree, Stacy. If she was in any kind of danger, she would have found a way to get help and call the police. She didn't have to kill her mom. It says, geez, Gyps, if you had time to go knocking on your neighbor's door, you definitely had time to stand. And these are just screenshots. And it says, I used to help with a local redacted that Gypsy and Dee Dee attended. Gypsy and this man met there. She told him she was older than everyone, though, and that her real birth certificate showed her being 18. I do not know if anything physical happened, but they were talking about dating. Gypsy waited till Dee Dee took her sleep meds to sneak out. She took money with her and a bottle of Vicodin. And then it says he was in his 30s. He was kind of a ladies' man. Dee Dee wanted to meet the guy at a local Walmart. Our friend said she was carrying a hammer. He offered to get Gypsy, worried about a physical confrontation. Dee Dee made Gypsy apologize to the convention staff. When I talked to Gypsy later, she said all she wanted was to be a real girl and fall in love. Dan had such a profound effect on Gypsy's life that he was what spurred the cow tongue voodoo story that Gypsy often repeats. In this section, we will be comparing and dispelling rumors on how Dan was in popular culture. In her memoir, My Time to Stand, chapter 8, Gypsy talks about Dan and how she added him as friends online. Dan reminded her that he was the drunk guy that bumped into her wheelchair during VisionCon. She and Dan spent months talking to each other, with Gypsy exploring what she would be like if she was able to grow out her hair, try out new restaurants and what concerts she could go to, and what kind of kisser would she be like if she saw Dan. Gypsy also shares that this was when she found out her Medicaid card showed her real age and where Dan told her, quote unquote, if this is true, you don't have to stay with her. You can start a new life. She also had a prescription for Valtrex. I never dived into Gypsy Rose. I literally know nothing. Well, now you're getting into it with us, Kimmy. Mallory. And yes, Kimmy, I agree about the Valtrex. Hey Ruth, good to see you. Stealing mom's meds and sneaking out. Exactly. It's nutty. Okay, present day. Around October 2024, Bree shared that Gypsy told her that she and Dan were in contact with each other and that Dan missed her. A content creator claims to debunk this by showing screenshots of Dan telling her that he no longer associates with the likes of Gypsy. So in these chats, it says, does threatening make you feel like yourself? What is it exactly you think you know about me exactly? I don't associate myself with the likes of her anymore. But if you were being truthful, then you would know this. The person responds with, it isn't a threat. It is a proposal. But if you believe you are slick, then just know I'm the one a step ahead of you at all time, one step ahead of you at all times. You were in contact with her recently, and you honestly cannot lie your way out of when there is proof. He responds with, I didn't see her. So what is your point? To trap me? And the creator responds with, do you want me to trap you? If you read, I said, I want to put the truth out of what she has done out there. And he responds, well, if you're always one step ahead, then why do you need me to say anything? Don't you already know the facts, son? And then the response says, someone's cheeky. I was warned of your snarky, narcissistic behavior, but whatever. If all you want to do is play games, like I said, I'll shop around for someone else to speak up and confirm the facts. Well, we cannot be certain that Dan does live in a shed or talking to Gypsy. We know that Gypsy still thinks fondly of him as she still remembers his birthday and tried to debunk it in a live stream in 2024. And this is a screenshot of that. And it says, Gypsy Rose Blanchard, the real Dan's birthday is August 16th. I can't believe I still remember that. And that is crazy if she really did post that, which I guess is coming from her page. So Gypsy has a lot of dirty little dark secrets. Let's move on to the next man. The next man is Sebastian A, and he was the sentimental lover. We do have a video on him later, but for now, we're just going to read through this document. Let me share. And yeah, happy New Year's Eve to all of you. Thank you for being here. Dan was kind of cute, said Kimmy. Okay. Oh, my bad. This is Sebastian. So Sebastian A, yes, that's the legal spelling. We checked was born in Kansas City area of Missouri on February 7th. His name later popped up in the Wi-Fi router of the infamous Pink House during the crime scene search following the murder of Dee Dee, because apparently even the router wanted to be part of the plot twist. Remember the crime scene photos that we looked at? And I brought that up when we looked through the crime scene photos. I was like, oh, Sebastian was connected to it as well. Interesting. Like Nick, Sebastian was one of the many men who knew Gypsy Rose Blanchard before the crime. In the FOIA emails, he's referred to as Bash or Bashy or occasionally Mickey. We are going to go through those emails. For clarity, he is not Mr. Chips and Soda. Let's not start conspiracy characters. For the record, this is only Sebastian and Gypsy Rose Blanchard's orbit, because one uniquely spelled Sebastian is enough for any true crime timeline. Oh, I see, because it's S-A, not S-E. For this article, we will be referring to Sebastian as Bash to avoid further confusion. There's only one Sebastian, and this is not him. This Sebastian is from Mexico. Okay, so there's some debunking this page, which is good. I like that they do that. Early life. Sebastian spent time in a rough neighborhood and had a messy, borderline tragic upbringing in Kansas, a place Gypsy Rose frequented for her medical treatments, because apparently everyone's origin leads back there eventually. He bounced between odd jobs, always struggling to make ends meet, and spent a good stretch of time without a phone or a car. Sebastian also had his fair share of run-ins with the law, racking up trouble mostly involving drug possession and traffic violations, and fleeing the scene after his dog at the time. Sebastian also has been very open about his rug use, often posting pics of him using rugs on Facebook. These things eventually caught up to him and led him to get arrested multiple times, and eventually landed himself in a rehab. Despite his rough and tough exterior, Sebastian has demonstrated a surprisingly soft side, such as posting on behalf of his sister to ask for baby formula and adopting stray animals so he can take care of them. Here's a list of his crimes. 11/26/2012, traffic. March 18th, 2013, possession of rugs. SIS, Rehab Heartland Center for Behavioral Change, the Northland Dependency Services, which was revoked 3 years. January 26th, 2016, Independence, Missouri traffic. February 23rd, 2016, another traffic infraction out of Clay County. April 19th, 2016, Jackson County, resisting arrest, 3 years, DOC released November 2017. Sebastian did some time in Fulton around 2019 as well. July 13th, 2020, Platte County, driving without a license. July 23rd, 2020, Jackson County, drug possession and failed to register vehicle. June 24th, 2025, Clay County, no plates on vehicle. So, what is the Gypsy Rose connection? So, while no one can say for sure how Gypsy and Sebastian first crossed paths, the best guess is the internet. Because where else do all chaotic relationships begin? Even though they met in person. However, the screenshot on the left shows that Sebastian and Gypsy knew each other back in 2014. Although we weren't able to find an account that belonged to Gypsy in the screenshot, we think Gypsy was using an alt account that was deleted. In the FOIA emails of Gypsy Rose Blanchard, we learned that Gypsy and Sebastian had a nickname for each other, Mickey and Minnie. In fact, they even wrote to each other when she was imprisoned. In these emails, Gypsy and Sebastian were sentimental towards each other, often reminiscing about their relationship. So on the screenshot in the right, it says, Sebastian, June 12th, 2014. I'll be in Raytown for a few more hours to get my affairs in order. Afterwards, I'm on my way out of this hellhole. Good riddance. Someone responds with, I know how you feel. This place is like a bottomless pit sucking the life out of you. Love you, Sebastian. Someone says, love it. And then that's the alt account, I believe, because then Sebastian replies with, inbox me, Gypsy. Steven says, where are you going? Sebastian says, don't know. So allegedly, that's the alt account that Gypsy had created. Let's read this. This is a prison email. This is Gypsy's writing to Sebastian, who we believe was on probation at the time, hence why he couldn't visit her in prison. We're going to go through these emails more in depth. Thank you, KK, for subbing. I appreciate it. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We appreciate having you here. And the little dog they had, no one knows where it went or what happened to it. I found the two cats Gypsy Dee Dee had were safe and got homes. Gypsy left them alone with nothing. Ugh. Also, Sebastian's device was seen recently connected. Yes, Reese, we saw that in the first set of photos that we went through in part 1, but we're going to continue to finish those. There's a couple thousand more. Pretty sure, okay, let's get into this. Pretty sure it's because of the same reason we broke up before. I have a bid to do, and we are both separated by walls that have rules that says you cannot come in. 3 years ago, I did what was best for you and let you go. When I heard you found love, I was happy for you, as I found someone too, but shit happens and things don't always work out. In your case, you went through something far worse than being dumped, and here we are. Well, a lot has happened since we used to write to each other back when we were in Boonville. Most of it just drama, but I'll spare you that stuff. I am 7 months single. I'm getting old. LOL. I'll be 29 in July. I am doing janitorial service on my wing, lost my GP photography gig due to a glitch in the computer. I am a facilitator for 𝐼𝐶VC now. I still haven't passed my math in GED, so that sucks, but whatever. I see the board in December of next year, so I have been racking up certificates. LOL, most days I'm so over this prison way of life. My 85% is at exactly 12/28/2023, no sooner. I'm ready to get the fuck out. I want babies and to have so much sex, like I'm wet and ready now. Excuse me? This is a prison email. Not so innocent, little Gypsy. Anyway, my family's doing all right. My father, well, I'm guessing this is from Sebastian, but I'm just saying Gypsy's not so innocent as we thought. I want babies and to have so much. Okay, anyway, my family's doing all right. My father's stuck at work offshore. He is a boat captain for an oil rig down in Louisiana. My sister's in college due to the pandemic, and she's taking classes online. My brother is well, and he is him, LOL. My ex-fiance is still living in Seattle and he's getting high on heroin and booze, a complete 180 from the wholesome, well-dressed, prissy pants bartender who was a recovered addict when we met, but since has relapsed in the last year. That's partly why he left me. He didn't want to bring me down through there with him, so he walked. Also, dating a chick you can't F because she's in prison for like 3 more years tends to put a damper on romance. Just saying. I still keep in contact with Redacted. She's about 10 weeks away from giving birth to her new baby girl. Her husband brings her other little girl, Redacted, to visit me because Redacted can't visit due to the same reasons you can't either. Former prisoners, lol. But all is okay. I just get lonely a lot and homesick. But other than just rock out the next few years, I'm staying positive. This pandemic is crazy. Are you okay? Are you working? What's been going on with your life? Love you, Minnie. This is a prison email from 2019. This is Gypsy writing to Sebastian. So it is Gypsy writing to Sebastian, who but we believe was on probation at the time, hence why he couldn't visit her in prison. Dirty little email. Can her baby daddy is in the H addict, but he denies he was an addict. We believe that Sebastian and Gypsy knew each other well enough as they were sentimental with each other in their emails. Compared to her long list of other lovers, and Ken gets upset and has expressed jealousy whenever Gypsy brings him up. Gypsy was well aware of Sebastian's existence in prison, that she even asked Christy to check if he was still in her support group, but Christy advised her to leave him alone. This is artwork of Mickey Mouse from Sebastian's first Facebook profile. While we can easily dismiss this as a young man's venture into street art, in true Gypsy Rose fashion, we know that she does things deliberately with meaning. The nickname Mickey did not come out of nowhere. Sure, we can brush this off by saying that she's a big Disney fan and has been to Disney several times. But if we follow Gypsy's mindset, she simply doesn't give someone a nickname unless they mean something to her. Though we aren't 100% certain on how the relationship was started, like Gypsy shares in her prison emails that she and quote unquote Bash weren't always aligned when it came to the relationship. They were often with another person instead of being with each other. Also, in the emails, we learned that Gypsy and Bash tried to rekindle with each other, but their communication eventually stopped. This went on for a while until it stopped for good. We believe that Gypsy was entertaining Nick and Dan and Sebastian at the same time. However, she settled for Nick because Dan and Sebastian were missing in action. During research, we found comments on Hub pages dated January 20th, 2012, where someone professed their love for Sebastian. While this is an anonymous account, we do believe this is Gypsy. If we plot out Gypsy's dating timeline, this places her knowing Dan already. This also places us months before Gypsy met Nick. This gives her enough time to triangulate the men and find the perfect fall guy for her plans. And this is a comment. It says, go mentally, but emotionally. It's what's best. 2011, I have to let go. Years full of me. Anonymous, January 20th, 2012. I am in love with Sebastian. He is my everything. So, how did Sebastian's name end up in the Wi-Fi router? This is a picture that we saw in the crime scene photos. And she claimed she was sheltered all her life because look at all the dudes. Exactly, Cammie. Exactly. She was also into doing a lot of stuff. The concerning stuff involves violence. I know. The more we dig into this, I don't think Gypsy's very innocent. As we mentioned earlier, Sebastian spent some time being a drifter, going from place to place with the help of friends and doing odd jobs. Many believe that this was Gypsy being quirky, but we don't think that's what happened here. We believe he may have spent time in the Habitat for Humanity house, either doing an odd job or doing things with her under the influence of hard substances. I thought to be on the Wi-Fi router, you had to be like close to the house or not, or inside. This must be another email. It says, let's go through this. What? LOL. No, I didn't get that pic at all. I'm sure they were watching very closely. I have already gotten one rejection notice from your cock pics. You're so bad. Well, right now I'd pretty much settle for just a warm embrace. Things have been stressful on the home front, and I don't have many friends to lean on. I have you on the low low because Redacted gets upset when I talk about you. He gets uber territorial. I have Redacted, and yep, that's it, besides my friend Redacted in here. I still ain't gone gay. 4 years, no P action, and it's gonna be another four before I get some. And then it says, wear a plain white tee over it. Wink. The response is, I keep losing your email. I keep losing your number. Email it to me so I can call you. I miss you. I have lots to tell you. Love you. The response is, when can they let it come through? And F, this is my last timestamp. I'm broke right now. Ugh. F my life, Gypsy. I got a new job though. And another response says, hey, Redacted, how are you? I hope you're having a lovely week. Hugs. We later learned that Gypsy Gypsy learned that Sebastian's girlfriend back in 2019 committed suicide and Gypsy reached out to him. This part I was not aware of. So if you guys were, at least she was trying to get some in jail. Ew. But yeah. Um I didn't know Sebastian's girlfriend had committed suicide. And this isn't the only person that does that in this case. So it says, Redacted, there are no words I could say to heal your heart right now. I might not even know what to say, but if you need someone to talk to, cry to, or just to stay in silence on the line, I'm here for you always. I love you and will always be someone you can turn to. When you are ready, please get the app Securus Mobile to start creating an account to video with me. Love always, Gypsy Rose, aka Minnie. While we cannot be sure that they completely stopped communicating, Gypsy and Sebastian's relationship has caused issues with her other relationships too, especially with Ken and Ryan. In fact, she often used Sebastian's name as a sort of a bargaining chip to make Ken jealous. And these are the screenshots. It's very small, but I'll read it. I'll try to read it the best I can. It says, I hope your solitude is giving you the peace of mind you need to find clarity. I am doing my best to respect your wishes for space. It's not easy for me. I don't do well alone. So I was informed that Sebastian had a girlfriend now, which I am happy for him. That's not the point. The point is, it made me think about if that was you. If one day I called Redacted and she told me you had a new girlfriend, if after we separated, how would I feel? The truth is, this is very it is this very thought that made me take that step way back when to tell you what is in my heart and where I want us to go from here. I couldn't even think of this without tears filling my eyes. It's tore me up inside to think of someone else in my place or in the place that I could or should be. It's crazy that to this day, I still feel that deep passion to want to be that woman that stands by your side. And I just wanted to share this with you, knowing the quote unquote chem lab is still exploding, at least for me. I love you. That will never change, but I'm also coming to acceptance if the quote unquote chem lab is an old abandoned room filled with dust for you. And with each day that passes without hearing your voice, I am giving up the will to fight for us. And then, so that's a Gypsy's prison email to Ryan. I'm sorry, this is addressed to Ken, but both emails mention Sebastian, where he mentioned to make Ryan and Ken jealous. And that's this part. How would you feel if I married Sebastian just on a whim, married him in prison wedding? How mad would you be? LOL. On the left is Gypsy's prison email to Ryan, while the left, I think they meant on the right. So Ryan and Ken are like fully aware of this. How did Gypsy Rose have so many men? I'm just curious. It blows my mind. Love is forever. LOL, right, Kimmy? It says, okay, so this is a Rachel Garlic connection. So there's a post on Facebook looking for someone to make t-shirts and matching masks in bulk for my new merch. Gypsy had claimed her former best friend, Rochelle Garlic, was Sebastian's ex-girlfriend. We found this to be untrue, even though their friendship story was a lie, but that's another story for another day. We have never found any connection that they were in a relationship. We did, however, see that they were Facebook friends at one time. We believe that Gypsy was using Rochelle as a bridge of communication to talk to Sebastian, and this may have even spanned over several accounts and years. Apologize if it's Rachel or Rochelle. Looks like Rochelle. So this on the left, it's a state of Missouri Department of Corrections censorship notification. It states the censorship committee has reviewed material sent to you. Pursuant to our review of material, we conclude that the security of this institution will be at risk if the material is delivered to you within the institution because the material, one, constitutes a threat to security, good order, or discipline, may facilitate or encourage criminal activity, may interfere with the rehabilitation of an offender. And then it says additional comments. Sexually explicit letter sent by Sebastian. Date received June 7th, 2017. We went on a deep dive to find the real Sebastian of Gypsy Rose by scoring public records and social media platforms. We know that this is a correct Sebastian because he was in places Gypsy frequented and a lot of their life events matched. And history would repeat itself with Sebastian when Sebastian made his presence known when the Missouri Department of Corrections flagged a sexually explicit letter he sent to Gypsy back in 2017. This guy just can't get his unique name out of the spotlight. Present day, it looks like Sebastian has managed to get his life around. He is now married and has children of his own. Meanwhile, Gypsy is still busy writing her fake diary tale and harassing people online. That is wild. But now we have a history on a little bit of all the men of Gypsy Rose. We started with Nick in part 1, and we just went through David, Richard, Dan, and Sebastian. Blows my mind that she has this many men. I want to move on to, before we get into the history of Gypsy Rose from 1991 to 2000, I want to play an interrogation interview of Rod Blanchard, who is her father. It's an interrogation interview, so let me pull it up on the screen. And then we're going to get into the stepmom interview as well. So please, please, please hit the like button. Thank you for being here. This interrogation is a little bit longer than the one of the stepmom. So let me pull it up. Same Melly, yeah. I'm glad you guys agree. Gypsy's nutcase. Okay.
What's going on today?
Did we speak with you? I think you probably spoke with us.
You may have called a couple times.
I called. You was in. You went to Wisconsin.
Yes, so you probably talked to one of our other detectives. Yeah,
Judy Walker.
Sergeant Walker.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So what we're bringing here today?
Well, we came for her court hearing this morning.
Yeah, I thought I might have seen you up there.
And wanted to visit with her, see if we could visit with her, and
sure.
See what else we can do to support her.
Right.
You know.
Sure.
We got a couple of issues with, we don't know what we're going to do with her mother's body or ashes. I'd like to be able to talk to Gypsy and see how she wants to handle that.
Sure.
She has family back at home that they're wondering, if they can have her ashes sent back there, or
right,
or if Gypsy wants to wait and have a ceremony maybe years from now. But
sure.
So there's some things we kind of want to business-wise taken care of.
Yeah, sure, I understand that.
And assist y'all in any kind of way,
Okay. As far as that part of it goes, you probably have to have her sign you up for the visitation on the visitation list. And you might also talk with maybe some of the jail administration. I don't know if they make any arrangements for a special visit for you or not.
That would be these guys here.
Yeah, right next door over here. Just tell me you need to talk to like a captain or a lieutenant or something.
Yeah, well, that's what I was asking.
Sergeant Hunt that was in here just a minute ago. Yeah.
He's going to pass it up. He said the captain's on vacation right now. So
yeah, and he will do that. He'll make sure he gets that up there. And he's got phone numbers and everything with him. Okay. Yeah, because they'll have to be the ones to arrange all that for you. Now, if she puts you down on the visitation list, does she know you're
here? Yeah.
Okay.
We was able to see her really briefly. This
Okay,
morning after
gotcha.
court, the judge
Okay.
allowed us to
Good.
go to that little side room.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
just say hi real quick.
Okay,
So,
good.
at least we could sit.
Did she have quite a bit of family members that were there in the courtroom today? Or
There was 3 of us.
3 of you guys?
Yeah. My sister we just went to pick her up at the airport. She wasn't able
Wasn't
to
able to
leave
make
with
it.
us yesterday morning early.
Okay,
She's here now.
okay. Well, I mean, I don't know Gypsy.
I saw a comment in the chat. Wow, Gypsy gets around a lot for being in a wheelchair. Absolutely.
I didn't know Dee Dee. I mean, obviously you knew him. I mean, is there anything maybe that I don't know that I need to be aware of or anything that?
Did you get notes from Judy Walker?
I have not yet because I've been doing my own leads on
We
stuff.
spoke to her pretty extensively on the phone.
Okay.
She spoke with my wife.
And gave her most of that information.
Yeah, I gave her from what I could remember, our dealings with Dee Dee, our
Sure.
relationship, and I sent her the checking account that I was making the child support payments to.
Okay. All right.
Well, I gave her the bank number. I don't know if I had the specific account number.
Right.
Dee and Gypsy were just greedy. They were getting money from the state, getting all these fundraisers, gifts, donations, and child support.
So she does have a lot of that information.
Okay. All right.
And if you look over her notes or whatever, and you have any questions, you can call me and ask.
Okay. Yeah, I think Judy's got your number.
But we went over some things, a lot of things.
Okay. All right. Well, so you know, I'm the lead investigator on this. I don't know if you're aware of that or not. So
Yeah, she told me that.
Okay. All right.
And I know I'm sure you got a lot of stuff on your plate.
Yeah,
To look through and everything.
I do. It's kind of a bad deal all the way around.
Yeah, it's a tragedy. It's like I told Judy, if I'd have had any one inkling that it was all a scam, or if Gypsy would have ever once made that insinuation, but every time I spoke to Gypsy, Dee Dee was always had her prepped. Like I'd call her and she'd be like, well, she's not feeling good right now. She's taking a nap. Call back tomorrow at like 2:00.
Right.
I'll have her ready for you. I call back the next day and I talked to Dee Dee for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, okay, I got her right here. And she gave her the phone. So it's like I told Judy. I said, man, I'm coming up there, but I really don't know what kind of a relationship I have with my daughter.
Right.
I don't know. She's never called me like on my cell phone.
You've always been the one initiating most of the conversations and stuff with your daughter?
It was back and forth. Sometimes Dee Dee would call me to kind of check in, fill me in on her supposedly conditions and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'd contact them and then we'd speak,
Right. Now you say supposed condition. What makes you say that?
Well, the fact that she's walking now.
Okay. Did you have any inclination that she could walk?
It's like I told you, years ago, her sister or somebody had called me. This was when we first was finding out that she couldn't walk.
Sure.
That it was a condition. And she said, Rod, Gypsy's walking. I seen her running around the yard and everything the other day. I'm like, oh, really? I said, okay, well, so I talked to Dee Dee about it, and she's like, yeah, her condition is not like a critical condition right now.
Sure.
Sometimes her legs hurt her and she's got to use the wheelchair.
Right.
And I assumed over the years after they moved away that the condition got extensively worse.
Sure.
And that was just it. She couldn't walk anymore at all.
Right.
I was never in an inclination that
She was actually
making her stay in a wheelchair for whatever reason.
Sure.
And like I told Judy, I've never been to the doctor with her.
Okay.
I can't say for sure on any of those. The only thing I could say that I'm pretty sure she had was epilepsy, because I remember visiting her one time. She might have been 8 or 9. And one of her,
I think Dee Dee wanted to keep Rod away so that she could do what she wanted to do with Gypsy.
eyes was like off to the side, from the epileptic fits.
Okay.
And Dee Dee told me they had surgery to kind of help fix the muscle a little bit in her eyes, or a little straighter now. But as far as physically seeing her throwing up or...
He doesn't sound very present and like he knows very much.
Sure.
Any symptoms wise, I've never...
her hair is really short. Is that how she normally keeps her hair? Or?
Dee Dee told me her hair would fall out from chemo treatments.
Okay.
And then she had wigs. But it doesn't look like her hair is thin at all,
No,
to me.
it didn't with me either, but
So,
you probably know her a little bit better than I do, but.
yeah, I mean, that's the impression I have, that why her hair is so short.
Sure, okay.
That it was some kind of guys that her mother put her under to whatever.
Sure.
Good old lady, she's a deceiving woman, man. She fooled me all them years.
Yeah.
Her neighbors.
She's a deceiving woman. So Rod knows. Yeah, Dee Dee had a grudge against him because Rod found out who Dee Dee was.
I think it's a tragedy that somebody can do that to their own mother. You got to be pushed to a limit. I mean, I don't care. I mean, I got mad at my mama a bunch of times
Sure.
over girls or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
never once would have ever thought of being in any part or knowing about. I mean, I'm not saying she did it or whatever, but
Sure.
I think it's obvious she had something to do with it for sure. From what I've heard.
Sure.
I just think she kind of controlled her. I understood she tried to run away a few times. I wish to God she would have, contacted me back then.
Right.
Maybe she didn't. I don't know. I really hadn't talked to her.
Yeah.
Mr. Hancock, I don't know.
Sure.
I have a lot of I don't knows and I'm confused, and that's why I want to see her.
Absolutely.
And I asked her, why you never called that?
Sure. Right.
I was always there for you. I was still sending her $1,200 a month.
Is that what you were
Up
ordered to
till-
pay in child support?
No, I was ordered to pay.
That's a good question. Reese says, but why didn't Rod step in and contact police or CPS or the courts? Fair question. Too bad Dee Dee put her issues onto Gypsy. Dee Dee kept him away, but he seems more happy than to be uninvolved.
The last court order I had, I think it might have been $350 a month.
But you were sending her more?
Yeah, as you get older, you make
Sure.
more money. I moved up in my career. I'm
Right.
I'm board captain now.
Okay.
So it's gotten up to $1,200 a month that
Sure.
I was sending her.
Was that on your own? Did you just kind of start giving her more on your own? You didn't never
On my
work
own,
with her?
no, I never had the last court order I had for child support was $350.
Okay. Well, that was
Yeah,
coming
I have
by.
those papers.
Sure.
Probably in, I don't know, 2006 maybe.
Okay.
So as I made more money, I felt like,
I'll get
the court's
Sure.
going to bring you anyway eventually or
Right.
something. So
Sure.
I bumped it up. And after she turned 18, I kept sending it.
Right.
I was under the assumption that Dee Dee would never work. It was a full-time job.
Yeah.
According to her, that she
Sure.
would take care of
Right.
Gypsy. So I just kept sending it,
How old is Gypsy?
23.
Okay. We've had some different dates of birth. I think we
July
got that all-
27th,
Yeah.
1991.
July 27th. Okay. I think we finally got all that straightened out, but I figured since you're
Yeah, I'm going to
here,
try
I'd
and
ask
get the
you.
birth certificate when we get back home.
Okay. I think we have a copy of it, but if you get one,
He knows how old she is. And I agree with Ree. He had legal rights and he simply didn't care. It's funny how they all play victim when Dee Dee is gone. Absolutely.
send me a copy, fax it to me or whatever, that'd be fine too.
Okay.
Original would be awesome, but
Yeah.
I'll leave that kind of up to you on that. Yeah, I really don't know. Have you talked to her attorney about trying to get a private visit with her, like a off-schedule visit? And when I say off-schedule, what I mean by that is basically her days that she has visitations. There's certain days that she has visitations on, and I don't know. You may have to go talk with them or even talk to her attorney or
We're
whatever.
going to meet with her attorney tomorrow.
Okay,
That
it's something you
one's-
might ask him about,
Yeah.
see if he can't set something up if you don't get anything from next door there, so. Well, I'm sorry to meet you on these circumstances and, it's your daughter and I understand kind of where you're coming from. I'm not in your shoes and can't fully understand, but at the same time,
Yeah.
I've raised kids myself and it's, you love them no matter what.
I met Dee Dee I was 17.
Wow.
I didn't know her true
Gosh.
age. I
Yeah.
thought she was 22. She was 24 that I just
Oh, no
found out.
kidding.
Yeah.
Wow, he met Dee Dee very young and she also was lying about her age.
And we dated a couple of months and she got pregnant. And I was never in love with her,
Sure,
between you and I or whatever.
sure.
And, I'm from the South where Christians
Yeah.
do the right thing, you know.
Sure.
And that's why I was raised, and I said,
Right.
we need to get married. You know?
Sure.
I gave it a good effort. When I turned 18, my 18th birthday, I said, man, this ain't right.
Yeah.
You know, I'll never make them happy. I'll never be happy.
Right.
So I left, and first 4, 5, 6, 7 years, Dee Dee kept it from me, like, made her scared of me.
Hmm.
I visited her at about 2 years old, and when we got there, Gypsy was shaking. I'm like, man, what are you telling her? You know, and they moved with her father. That didn't go good. After her mom died, I'm not sure.
After Dee Dee's mom died.
After Dee Dee's mom died, they moved with Gypsy, Dee Dee's father and his wife, and that relationship.
I agree. If he had the means and knew something was wrong and knew who Dee Dee was, why didn't he do more? ATS says, I also think Rod's wife didn't mind Rod wasn't close to Gypsy. Reese says, we've got to stop making excuses for fathers who claim the woman is a problem. He had way more money than Dee Dee and could have easily got visitation and didn't, even if just a couple weekends a year. Yeah, and if he was suspect on things relating to her health, he could have also intervened and used the courts, right? What about Gypsy's grandparents? Oh, that's a good question.
My wife says that she tried poisoning the mother-in-law, and because she was sick while she was there, and Dee Dee left, and she got
Yeah, I
better.
heard something about
But they ended up like moving away and disowning her own family, much less getting away from me.
Sure.
You know, like I was a big threat.
Can I ask you something based on that? Be honest with me. If you don't have to tell me, but I appreciate some honesty here. There was rumor that apparently you were abusive to them. I mean, did you and Dee Dee ever fight and get into a physical of any kind? Have any police records or anything of that
Absolutely
nature?
not.
Okay.
Never, ever.
All right.
We never like physically got in each other's face and argued.
Sure. Just regular
After I
arguments.
mean, how many fights can you have when you're just dating somebody in 3
Right.
months?
Sure.
It was together 3, maybe 6 months that we were together.
Okay.
You know, after I left, we never got back together.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a little insane. ATS says, well, the facts are he was 17 when they met and Dee Dee was 24. Said she was 22. So, yeah, Dee Dee preyed on Rod when he was under 18. That's sick.
She did come stay with me and my mom for a few days because she didn't have any other place to go.
Right.
We took her in until she found something.
Okay.
And then she moved away. You know, she moved away and kept her away. We had made a couple of trips that we had planned to go to Disney.
Mm-hmm.
Right before the trip, nothing. 2 years ago, we went to Tennessee. My wife and my other daughter was going to make a triangle. Tennessee, come see Dee Dee and Gypsy, and we go home. The whole week before, the whole time we was on vacation, called. Never answered. You know, talked to her a week later or something, and you know what happened?
Yeah.
Oh, Gypsy got sick. We had to go stay at the hospital for a week or something.
Yeah, they used to live in Louisiana, obviously, right? So, how'd they get to Missouri?
It was after Katrina. They got relocated.
Okay.
We didn't hear that from them probably 3 or 4 months after Katrina.
Wow.
We were worried.
Sure.
You know,
Well, yeah.
I believe they was living in somewhere around Mandeville, maybe,
Okay.
which is close to where Katrina, the eye passed and everything.
Right.
I imagine they evacuated before the storm.
Sure.
But that's what happened. Some kind of way.
Good point. He didn't love Dee Dee and he didn't want Gypsy. That's obvious why he didn't intervene.
Maybe Blue Cross brought her or something.
Sure.
You know?
Okay. We were wondering about if that was actually true or not.
Yeah, it was true. That was the time frame. That's.
And that was back in when, do you know? Remember?
No.
It's been so long ago. I don't remember when Katrina actually hit down there.
Yeah. I'd have to look it up.
That's fine. Well, obviously you were in court this morning and kind of heard. So, come July, there's going to be a preliminary hearing. So,
Yeah, I'll go.
you
I'll
can
be
be
back
here
for
for
that.
that. Okay. All right.
And the trial, I imagine the trial, it's not going to be 2 weeks after that.
No, I wouldn't think so, but you never know. And then, that stuff can extend for a long time too. So, well, anything else that you think would be important or?
I don't know, it's just so much crap right now. It's
hard to take a lot in.
hard to pinpoint any particular
Sure.
point that would make a difference in any way. I mean,
Right.
there's a lot of stuff out there on the internet that some of it's true, I guess. A lot of stuff about myself that, like I told my wife, I said, don't even try to respond to any even that I haven't, you know, or even nothing. Not even please pray for my family or nothing. I mean, don't even, people's gonna judge you. Yeah. I mean, I could have. They just don't know. That's what they like to do. They like to get nosy and judge and everything. So it is what it is. I have a good handful of friends back home that know I'm a good father and friend. And they would be right here tomorrow. If you need them. Yeah, they'd be here right now if I needed them. Okay, good. So, I mean, I don't feel like I have to explain myself to anybody. Right, absolutely. It's a tragedy it's just a tragedy. Yeah, it is. Something could lead to that. Yeah, it is. You know, there's a lot of stuff out there. So, well, I appreciate you coming in. I don't know if anything else I could think of that. Let me talk to Sergeant Hunt real quick and make sure he hasn't got anything else from you. So I'll be right back with you. Appreciate your time and everything.
Yeah, good question, Kimmy. If Gypsy had told multiple people her mom made her use a wheelchair, why did no one call someone?
All right, you can come on out here. He's notified the jail staff, so just whenever they get in touch with him, he'll be in touch with you to let you know what he found out. So you might just get a little bit.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I get a feeling Rod's just, I don't know. I got a really weird vibe after watching that. But let's watch Christy now. Let's watch the stepmom. She also has a role in this, and we're going to listen. This is not a video interrogation. This is actually only just audio. So let me pull it up for you. And I did get this from Into the Weeds.
This is Sergeant Walker from the Sheriff's Office in Greene County, Missouri. Hi, how are you, ma'am? I'm sure you are. Well, hopefully we can help each other here, because I'm trying to get a little bit of information from them, and I'll do my best to answer any questions that I can for you to try to help you out. Okay. I'm just going to ask you a few questions, like, get your information from you. Is your given name Christy or Christine or?
Yeah, Gala. There is a written summary. I don't have that written summary, Gala.
Okay, and your middle initial? Okay.
But maybe we should play this when I do have it, because I have it in all these documents, but I want to hear what she has to say as well. I think both people, so maybe let me pull it up. Christy actually kind of said, don't let Gypsy fool you. She's smarter than you think or something, and their relationship is dysfunctional. No one wanted to take a sick child. Christy's strange too, but I like her for some reason. LOL, and Mia the sister. I think both people knew Dee Dee and Gypsy were both cray-cray and just turned a blind eye. Let me pull up the document. This is just... okay, let me see. Let's go through. I need to find that. I don't know much about Christy, to be honest. It makes me question what context Gypsy said her mom made her use the wheelchair. It sounds like maybe she wasn't very detailed why. Okay, well, maybe let me find that transcript. But in the meantime, let's move on from that interview. I want us to be able to hear what Christy's saying, because I don't want to just listen to the cop talk to her on the phone. So I will get that pulled up. Let's move on to Gypsy from 1991 to 2000, and I'll come back to that interview with the script. Yeah, I think Gypsy was just too much trouble for them, and they saw her getting free handouts. But Gypsy only had some conditions, right? We're going to learn right now. So let's see. On May 26, 2014, Gypsy sent a video message to Nick in which she recounted a significant claim about her medical history. Gypsy stated that around 1997, at the age of 6, she experienced a seizure during a surgery that left her temporarily paralyzed. In that video, Gypsy claims she eventually regained feeling in her legs, but chose not to tell anyone, reportedly due to fear that her mother Dee Dee would stop loving her. She further stated she continued to feign paralysis until 2011. This account appears to diverge from Gypsy's widely publicized post-arrest narrative in which she alleged that Dee Dee had coerced or forced her to remain in a wheelchair, a central detail in the Munchausen syndrome by proxy framework often presented in the documentaries and interviews. At first glance, this claim may appear unlikely. However, it raises a key question. Why would Gypsy, who has consistently framed herself as a victim of medical abuse, tell Nick that she chose to pretend she was paralyzed, rather than assert that Dee Dee forced her into a wheelchair, as she had claimed in numerous interviews since her arrest? The inconsistency between this private account and her later public narrative suggests a need for careful scrutiny. For that reason, the detail deserves to be considered as we continue to explore Gypsy's complex and often contradictory medical history. In 1991, when Gypsy was just 3 months old, she exhibited signs of sleep apnea, a serious condition that caused her to stop breathing and experience a seizure during her sleep. In response, Dee Dee, in accordance with what any responsible parent would do, raised her concerns with medical professionals. After an assessment, Dee Dee was provided with a CPAP, continuous positive airway pressure monitor, to help help manage Gypsy's condition and alert her to any potential breathing issues during the night. Sleep apnea would remain a documented issue for Gypsy for years to come. Despite this, Gypsy later claimed in the 2017 documentary Mommy Dead and Dearest that the breathing monitor seemed to make my breathing worse, not better. This effectively implies that both medical professionals and her mother were endangering rather than helping her life. However, Dee Dee's version of events, preserved in Gypsy's medical records, paints a different picture. According to those records, Dee Dee reported that Gypsy actually liked using the CPAP machine, which she said helped Gypsy sleep more restfully. A medical report dated July 1st, 2004, supports this account, stating that the CPAP resolved Gypsy's significant nocturnal hyperventilation. While Gypsy is now free to speak her version of events without rebuttal from her late mother, the medical record remains a critical counterpoint, offering insight into what was being reported and observed at the time, not years later, through the lens of a media narrative. So these are some childhood pictures of Gypsy. They're a little bit blurry. And Dee Dee. That's crazy to see Dee Dee in these pictures. And how different she was at the time of her death. Let me zoom out. Wow. It's a trip. Breathing problems. We saw the Demono dance video. She was toned and in good shape, not malnourished. Yeah, she looked decent in that. I mean, not dancing around like that, but yeah, her body didn't look. But look at Gypsy there too, in that picture. So here she is as a baby. And Dee Dee. Look at Gypsy right here. Her teeth were always kind of bad condition, right? Rod, the dad, who we just watched, has over the years offered various recollections regarding Gypsy Rose's early medical issues, particularly her sleep apnea. His statements, however, have been inconsistent and often contradictory, which perhaps isn't surprising given that Rod himself admits he was largely absent during the first 5 years of Gypsy's life. Still, despite limited involvement, Rod has repeatedly weighed in on her early health. If one were generously paid to comment on Cleopatra's childhood, one might attempt to do so after reading a few historical texts. But in Rod's case, he's speaking not about the ancient figure, but about his own daughter. In Mommy Dead and Dearest, Rod recalls, quote unquote, right from birth, 3 months old, Dee Dee was telling me Gypsy had sleep apnea and she needed a breathing machine or a monitor machine, which I mean, I, to this day, don't know if that was real or not, you know? So was it from birth or from 3 months old? The ambiguity continues. I have not seen those movies either or documentaries, so I'm going to get into them. In Gypsy's Revenge, he elaborates, quote unquote, Dee Dee tells me she's trying to get Gypsy this heart monitor that she'd have to wear while she slept because she stopped breathing in her sleep. And she'd have seizures in the middle of the night. And she'd tell me she was bringing her for tests and everything, and that she had sleep apnea. She acted so scared. The phrase, quote unquote, acted so scared implies performance, which in turn suggests fabrication, leaning into the narrative of Munchausen syndrome by proxy. However, that implication stands in contrast to medical facts about infantile seizures and their impact on development, something Dee Dee relayed to Rod, quote unquote, when Gypsy had seizures, it would knock her back mentally a couple of years. This is not a falsehood. Seizures in infancy indeed can delay developmental milestones. Rod also stated that not long after separating from Dee Dee, she informed him that Gypsy was having sleeping problems and had been diagnosed with epilepsy. He's quoted in the Gypsy's Truth and Lies documentary as saying, quote unquote, Gypsy was sick, problems sleeping, epilepsy, and it just progressed from there. Yet Rod also claims he and Dee Dee split 3 months before Gypsy was born, which raises the question, when exactly does he believe Gypsy's epilepsy began? In utero? By 2019, Rod appears to have reversed course, stating, quote unquote, from the medical records I've seen now, there's no determination that she had sleep apnea. Her tests seemed pretty normal, but Dee Dee was persistent that she get the heart monitor she wear at night. This assertion overlooks a key piece of documentation, a July 1st, 2004 medical report confirming evidence significant and nocturnal hypoventilation resolved with the use of nasal CPAP. Rod further claims that he never witnessed Gypsy having a seizure, a questionable litmus test given how rarely he saw her, and that seizures related to sleep apnea typically occur during sleep when he would have not been present. Yeah, I don't get how he can say anything because he wasn't even around too much. Microdilation significantly increases the risk of sleep apnea. She even said herself she drank Pediasure from a bottle, even in adulthood. It was her microdeletion, and she had a bottle of rotten teeth that caused it. And she had bottle rotten teeth that caused it. In 2024, Rod again changed his stance. Quote unquote, I remember when Gypsy was 3 to 4 months old. Dee Dee told me she stopped breathing in her sleep. She had her tested and she had sleep apnea. From quote unquote, maybe it was real to she definitely had sleep apnea, Rod's recollections shift significantly over time. To summarize Rod's version of events, Gypsy may or may not have had sleep apnea, which may have started before she was born, or at birth, or at 3 months, or perhaps 4. Ironically, in 2007, a physician who suspected Munchausen syndrome by proxy noted, quote unquote, the mother is not a good historian. That physician had clearly never interviewed Rod Blanchard. Gypsy's medical records indicate that her seizures were not only witnessed by Dee Dee, while that were only witnessed by Dee Dee. Oh, interesting. While that fact is often used to question their legitimacy, it is not uncommon for sleep-related seizures in infants to go unwitnessed except by a caregiver. The absence of third-party observation does not negate their occurrence. Rod also claimed that he briefly reunited with Dee Dee out of concern for Gypsy's health. Quote unquote, that didn't work out. I didn't feel any different. And that was from The Killer Thorn of Gypsy Rose in 2019. Whether that return was driven by genuine concern or other personal motives remains speculative. Maybe Rod and his inflated sense of self were on another quote unquote fill in the gap break from Christy or from Jill or from other Christy, or he needed a ride. Interestingly, it is Dee Dee's own father, Claude, who adds an additional layer of credibility to the sleep apnea diagnosis. Quote unquote, at night, Gypsy had a machine on. The alarm would come on, she would stop when she stopped breathing. So you had to wake her up. Once you'd wake her up, the machine would stop, but it was scary. That account, along with clear medical documentation, confirms that Gypsy's breathing issues were both real and concerning. For the record, sleep disorders and seizures in infants are consistent symptoms of the microdeletion syndrome, the very genetic condition Gypsy has. So perhaps it's time for Rod Blanchard to sit this one out. What makes me think she had Munchausen syndrome? The problem also is the microdeletion was not medically able to target tested until 2011 when she was officially diagnosed. Yes, she was officially diagnosed in 2011. Yeah. Kimmy had cervical cancer and diabetes and was quite ill towards the end of her life. Then Nick came in and stabbed a corpse. According to, you've guessed, Rod and Mommy Dearest, he says, when Gypsy was around 4, 5, or 6, Dee Dee started telling me she had some problems with her eyes, seizures. She would say that the seizures would affect her eyes. 2 years later, in The Killer Thorn of Gypsy, Rod revised the timeline. Quote unquote, before she was 5, Dee Dee started talking about her having problems with her eyes. So it seems like Rod doesn't really know exactly when things started. It seems even the basic details surrounding the onset of Gypsy's eye issues remain unclear to Rod. Was she 4, 5, or 6? The range only further underscores Rod's uncertain grasp of events from his daughter's early life. Medical records, by contrast, offer clarity. Gypsy underwent eye surgery at just 3 years old. Dee Dee, her primary caregiver, also reported that symptoms began as early as 8 months. In both instances, crucial moments in a child's health history, Rod was absent, probably along with his memory. So this is Gypsy TikTok replying to someone. Yes, I had eye muscle surgery because my lazy eye, that was the only one that was necessary. So that was her responding to some troll on TikTok. Gypsy herself has downplayed the severity of her condition, stating in Gypsy's Truth and Lies that the only thing I have wrong with me is I have a little bit of a lazy eye. That's it, nothing else. This statement omits the fact that Gypsy had been diagnosed with microdeletion syndrome, a rare chromosomal disorder known to include eye abnormalities, among its symptoms, strabismus being one of them. Strabismus is not simply a lazy eye. It is a serious misalignment of the eyes that, if untreated, can lead to permanent vision loss. In Gypsy's case, the condition affected both eyes, and her medical records confirm that she underwent multiple corrective surgeries over the years, procedures deemed medically necessary by professionals. Nonetheless, Gypsy, Rod, and Christy, Rod's wife, have all attempted to minimize or question the legitimacy of those procedures. Christy, for example, claimed in a 2018 interview she does have a lazy eye if she doesn't wear her glasses all the time. That was since she was a little baby. Everything else was a lie. That in itself is demonstrably false. The 200 pages of medical records released in 2003 not only document Gypsy's strabismus diagnosis, but also the surgical interventions that helped preserve her vision. These are the same records Rod and Christy claim to have read after the fact. It is worth highlighting that Dee Dee Blanchard, despite the posthumous allegations, was a parent who ensured Gypsy received appropriate treatment for this serious condition. Rod, by his own admission, did not attend a single medical appointment or surgery over the course of Gypsy's childhood. Yet, post-tragedy, he and Christy Blanchard were all over Gypsy's medical records like a nasty inflamed rash. Yeah, I don't know why they felt they could really say anything if he wasn't around. If she didn't get eye surgery, she would be blind today. Crowded teeth, delayed eruption, and increased cavities often linked to genetic disruptions affecting both tooth development. It's funny how Gypsy, Rod, and Christy are all correct and know more than the medical professionals. And here's Gypsy had a prominent lazy eye during her childhood. She had eye surgery, which corrected her lazy eye. She also had to wear glasses to help her eye and vision. Many have noticed her strabismus had worsened since her parole ended. Oh, wow. I hadn't seen these pictures like this. These two at the bottom. Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, and Dee Dee's mom. Interesting, Kimmy. Gypsy's own account of her earliest medical memories is inconsistent. In Mommy, Dead and Dearest, she recalls her first memory as having her feeding tube inserted. However, during her Dr. Phil interview the same year, she recalls, quote unquote, my first memory would be in the hospital, and I remember having a surgery done to my eyes. Both memories may be valid or they may be not. What they highlight is a fragmented, conflicting narrative that continues to surround Gypsy's medical history. Dr. Robert Steele, who became Gypsy's primary care physician when she was already 14, is often mistakenly referred to as her childhood doctor. In the prison confessions of Gypsy Rose, Dr. Steele theorizes that Dee Dee's alleged Munchausen syndrome by proxy may have originated around the time of Gypsy's eye diagnosis, implying that Dee Dee received emotional gratification from medical attention. However, the foundation of that theory, that Dee Dee sought unnecessary procedures, is undermined by the reality that strabismus is medically recognized treatable condition, as Dr. Steele himself acknowledges from having a child that could have gone blind. That fact alone suggests Dee Dee acted appropriately, not manipulatively, when she sought treatment. Then there's Gypsy's former attorney and her current manager, Mike, who stated, quote unquote, I don't know why these procedures were done or how her mother was able to convince the doctors. Mind-boggling is the only way I can put her ability to manipulate people. This suggestion that licensed physicians performed surgical procedures based solely on a mother's say-so borders on the irresponsible. It grossly underestimates the rigor of medical protocols and the professionalism of clinicians. No eye surgeon performs multiple operations on a minor without clinical justification, unless, of course, you're crafting a legal narrative to support a Munchausen syndrome by proxy defense. The bottom line is that strabismus, I hope I'm saying that right, is a known symptom of the microdeletion syndrome. Gypsy Rose had it, she was treated for it, and the treatment likely saved her from lifelong vision impairment. For anyone questioning whether those interventions were necessarily or real, the evidence speaks for itself. Perhaps it's time for the revisionist to sit this one out. That'll be you, Bob, and you, Mike. In 1995, Christy Blanchard gave birth to her first child, Dylan. Despite this well-documented date, Christy and Rod often appear in media accounts that imply a more traditional timeline. First comes love, then comes marriage, then comes baby and baby carriage. This sanitized narrative omits that Dylan was born 4 years before their 1999 marriage, a detail they've chosen not to correct publicly. Why the omission? Possibly because Rod was still legally married to Dee Dee at the time of Dylan's conception. While speculative, the motive behind reshaping this timeline may reflect a desire to maintain a particular image. Christy, at the very least, seems invested in how that story is told. At the time of Dee Dee Blanchard's murder, it was reported that Dylan wished to remain out of the spotlight and avoided social media. This, too, is contradicted by the presence of several active accounts and numerous post 2015 images of Dylan shared by Christy on her own public profiles. While there is undoubtedly more to this family dynamic, not all closets need to be opened. Gypsy has often claimed her extensive dental problems were the result of long-term overmedication. In Gypsy's revenge, she said, quote unquote, the medications did affect my teeth, sorry. They started to deteriorate and some of them had to be extracted. In an early interview from 2017, she pointed to Tegretol, an anticonvulsant prescribed for her seizures, as the primary culprit. However, this theory has flaws. Tegretol can cause dry mouth, which contributes to tooth decay, but its misuse in high doses can be lethal, not just damaging. If Dee Dee had been over-administering it, as Gypsy alleges, the result would have been much more severe than dental deterioration. Moreover, records show Gypsy's Tegretol prescription ended in 2005, by which time many of her teeth were still intact. And this is a text message, Gypsy says, I need to tell you a secret. I never stopped sucking Pediasure from a baby bottle. Wow. Just like the feeding tube, it saved her life, right? I got mega suspicious why back at that Dr. Phil interview. Was there any medical tests done when Gypsy was arrested? The Dr. Phil one was filled with so many lies. Her narrative is consistently shape-shifting. Yeah, interesting how it does. I don't know who's telling lies and who's telling truth sometimes. It is more plausible that Dee Dee withheld medication and treatment. That's not supported by the evidence either. Medical records show that Gypsy had a high palate, a condition that can cause feeding difficulties, sleep apnea, and serious dental complications. She also suffered from acid reflux, which erodes enamel over time. Additionally, Gypsy willingly continued using a baby bottle well into adulthood. Last known sighting when Gypsy was 23. Another known contributor to tooth decay. Hey, Beanlokes. Good to see you, love. Thanks for popping in and saying hi. Hi. Shout out to you. Thank you. I appreciate you for being here. Wait, so the last known sighting was when she was 23. Wasn't that when she was arrested? So she was still drinking out of a baby bottle then? The reality is likely multifactorial. Gypsy had genuinely poor dental health driven by a combination of congenital factors, underlying conditions, and long-term use of medications, but not willful neglect or abuse in a specific regard. Medical records indicate that Dee Dee took steps to address these issues through extensive dental rehabilitation, including multiple surgeries and ongoing care. With everything Gypsy faced medically, it's remarkable she retained as many teeth as she did. Gypsy has repeatedly claimed that Dee Dee instructed her to stay silent during medical appointments. In Mommy Dead and Dearest, Gypsy said, quote unquote, she told me to play with my Barbie doll, and if the doctor examined me, to stay in the wheelchair, be calm, and not move my legs. In the prison confessions of Gypsy Rose in 2024, she added, quote unquote, she would squeeze my hand. That was a signal to shut up. However, these statements are challenged by actual medical documentation. For example, during a 2007 pre-op evaluation for dental surgery, which included 10 fillings, 2 extractions and crowns, the physician noted that Gypsy's vocabulary appeared, quote unquote, more advanced in 2nd grade and described her as fluent and engaging. Dee Dee was also described as extremely attentive and loving. Interesting. One of the most heavily disputed aspects of Gypsy's Rose story is whether she ever had seizures. Gypsy and her legal team have suggested her epilepsy was fabricated. Yet medical records and prescriptions tell another story. As late as May 29th, 2013, just 2 years before Dee Dee's death, Gypsy attended a neurology follow-up where doctors chose to increase her dosage of Keppra, a medication used specifically for managing epilepsy. Doctors don't casually prescribe or adjust seizure medication. They do so based on observable symptoms, testing, and evaluation. Further evidence comes from Gypsy herself. After an arrest in 2015, while in custody at the Waukesha County Sheriff's Department, she told a deputy she had been transported to the hospital to receive medication for her seizure disorder. That disorder, which Gypsy now claims never existed, was still being referenced by Gypsy herself at the time of the arrest. And yet she now insists it was all an act. According to the Epilepsy Foundation, nearly 60% of individuals diagnosed with epilepsy become seizure-free with proper treatment. It's entirely plausible that Gypsy's condition improved, but likely that it never existed. What? 23 years of consistent medical documentation with multiple specialist follow-ups and prescriptions are hard to write off as mere fiction. Since her release from prison in December of 2023, Gypsy had undergone a cosmetic dental overhaul, replacing her silver crowns with porcelain veneers as part of a full smile makeover. Good for her. But it's worth remembering that Gypsy's growing platform is largely funded by public fascination with her mother's murder. In 2024, online sources estimated Gypsy's net worth at approximately $3 million. Gypsy publicly refuted this, claiming she had only $15,000 in her bank account. Bless her. $15,000 in the bank isn't bad for someone who has never done an actual day's work in the entire life. Yet by April of 2025, she reportedly deposited $50,000 into her now ex-husband's account, an amount difficult to reconcile with her earlier claims of financial hardship. In short, Gypsy Rose may not be as financially destitute or as medically innocent as her public narratives suggest. Definition of a poor mouth: a person who claims poverty in order to gain sympathy or financial advantage. Gypsy Rose may be one of the most literal examples of that definition, with the receipts, the records, and the royalties to prove it. So back in September 25th of 2025, Gypsy made her presence known in the comments section of a TikTok account and tried to rebuke that she didn't budget right. However, she was confronted by other TikTokers to tell the truth, yet Gypsy never responded to any of them. So this on the left is proof of that. It says, Gypsy Rose, LOL, I said I have $50 in my account left from my salary a month because I didn't budget right. And that was the 6 months ago. You think somebody only has $50 for the rest of their life? Y'all crack me up. So that's her hopping into the comments, which is wild. Oh, Gypsy Rose. Let's move on. The decision to place a feeding tube in Gypsy was made not by her mother, Dee Dee, but by a multidisciplinary team of medical specialists. And let's read this. It says, this letter is in reply to your request for a summary statement on Gypsy Rose regarding her application for disability benefits. Gypsy is a 9-year-old female whom I've had care for since June of 2020. Gypsy has a history of developmental delay, impaired vision and hearing, microcephaly, and seizure disorder, who has a history of gastroesophageal reflux disorder and severe feeding aversions. Gypsy is so fearful of eating, we had to place a PEG tube for nutritional purposes. Prior to the PEG placement, Gypsy had undergone extensive evaluation and attempted treatment for her feeding aversions by the feeding team at Children's Hospital. She was not able to consume enough calories by mouth to promote her survival. In addition to her other impairments, Gypsy is a very anxious child who is frightened by medical intervention and social interactions. I do not believe she's capable at the present time of functioning autonomously in school or society. Yeah, why would medical professionals place a feeding tube? You know what I mean? If she wasn't experiencing things, she's such a pathological liar and psychopath. Gypsy, absolutely. I don't know how to feel about the feeding tube. So was Gypsy in fear? She was a very anxious child. According to Gypsy's medical records, this conclusion followed an extensive evaluation by a feeding team. The procedure was considered an appropriate and necessary intervention for several documented health concerns at the time, including failure to thrive, difficulty swallowing, and hypersalivation. Before the feeding tube placement, Gypsy underwent a Nissen fundoplication. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, sorry. A surgical procedure used to treat severe acid reflux, further evidence of ongoing GI issues. In various media appearances, Gypsy's father, Rod, has shared recollections of her childhood health issues. In a 2018 interview for Gypsy Rose Revenge, he stated, "It just got worse and worse. Dee Dee started telling me they're running tests. They're trying to find out what's going on with her. She's got a lot of issues. She had some problems with her hearing, needed tubes in her ears, had reflux. So at 7 or 8, she had the feeding tube put in." However, Gypsy's 2024 memoir, Now That I Don't Have to Pretend I Can't, contains inconsistent accounts. In one section, she claims she was 5 when the tube was placed. In another, she recalls being 9. Medical documentation most consistently supports the age of 7. And so all these issues just went away as she got older, or what? Like, she got a feeding tube. What about the ear? Now she's fine? Did she have surgery or something? My stepbrothers needed a feeding tube. They had to wait and they needed it. They are hard to get unless necessary. Yeah, I've heard they're hard to get. Dangerous. Also, Gypsy has been on Medicaid government insurance her entire life. They do not just willy-nilly do feeding tubes, right? That's what I was thinking. My kid needed a neck surgery for torticollis, and it took 2 to 5 years to get Medicaid approved. Yeah, it's a pain. She weighed 7 years old. She weighed a 7 years old weight at age 13. That's why she got a GI tube. She has always had swallow issues from microdeletion, but now she's fine. That's what confuses me. So this on the right is surgery admission, tube placement, May 21st, 2007. And this on the, I'm sorry, that's on the right. I'm going to try to read this physical examination. It's a little blurry, but it says, today she is awake, alert, and good spirits, dressed as a Christmas elf. Her voice is normal. She has had some salivation with salivary flow from her mouth, but no gross choking or coughing during our exam. Oral activity exam reveals very moist mucosa with pulling of saliva in her floor of the mouth. No other mucosal lesions noted. Anterior rhinoscopy is normal. Her ear exam is fairly normal without retained PE tube in the right ear canal, with no signs of infection. Audiogram today revealed tightly tense bilaterally and mild conductive hearing loss in the right side with superimposed on slight, I'm sorry, I'm trying to read it, slight sensorial loss, which appears to be symmetric. Her neck is without any masses or tenderness. Chest is clear. Cranial nerves are intact. Sorry, I'm trying to read these court documents when they're so little. Look at her swallow. She looks insane when she eats drink. It's like watching a camel. I haven't seen that, Reese, so maybe I should go look on some of her TikToks. Mel, you should look up. Yeah, we will. We'll go through them. She has major issues. Okay, yeah. We're going to get through a lot of videos here soon. She gained weight from it. A lot of kids with inner ear issues do grow out of them. Okay, so this is, let's see, an exam. Barium swallowed modified. Clinical history swallowing difficulty. The patient exhibited significant difficulty in swallowing, all consistency of food. There is significant gagging and coughing with each attempt to swallow. Only small quantities were able to be swallowed without spitting out the food. No evidence of aspiration or penetration was noted. There was a global delay of swallowing. No evidence of aspiration, significant gagging. Okay. The study was revised. Okay. While public narratives often focus on the worsening of Gypsy's condition, they rarely acknowledge that it was worsened for both Gypsy and Dee Dee. Dee Dee was caring for a child with numerous health concerns, undergoing continuous diagnostic testing to identify root causes. Meanwhile, Rod Blanchard's life was reportedly improving during this period, transitioning from the shrimp industry to work offshore as a shipmaster, a role associated with significantly high earnings. Whether this distance from daily caregiving was intentional or circumstantial remains a question for broader discussion. It was intentional. We wonder whose idea to get Rod shipped out to work in the middle of the ocean for a month at a time. On the right is an emergency department discharge instructions. Otis media perforation. Gypsy had her first ear tubes placed around the age of 4, coinciding with the birth of her half-brother Dylan. Ear tube placements are common in younger children with chronic ear infections, especially those with the microdeletion syndrome, a chromosomal disorder associated with recurrent infections, developmental delays, and feeding issues. Medical records confirm that Gypsy had multiple ear infections and perforations. Her last recorded ENT evaluation was in February 2009 when the removal of the ear tubes was recommended. She can eat now? Yeah, apparently, but she has some issues. GI tubes are often a temporary solution. In many cases, GI tubes can be removed if the patient is able to meet their nutritional needs orally. And she did gain the intended weight. I'm not sure why it was still, unless malnutrition come back. Wow. There's a lot here. In the interviews and documentaries, Gypsy has claimed, quote unquote, my mother told the doctors I couldn't eat, and that the feeding tube was a way to control what I would eat. However, these statements are contradicted by her medical records, which clearly indicate Gypsy was not able to consume enough calories by mouth to promote survival. This denotes insufficient caloric intake, not complete oral refusal, an important distinction. Moreover, medical records show that Gypsy could eat soft foods with favorites like mashed potatoes and pudding. Dee Dee even discussed trying different ways to make mashed potatoes more palatable, indicating a continued arrangement of oral intake alongside tube feeding. How many abusive moms try to jazz up mashed potato? Good question. Rod Blanchard's recollection that Gypsy could no longer eat solid food after the feeding tube placement, quote unquote, she couldn't have any physical hard foods, further contradicts his own claim that he took Gypsy to McDonald's. Medical documentation suggests that while Gypsy's oral intake was limited, it was not eliminated. The feeding tube was never intended to restrict Gypsy's eating. It was necessary to supplement her nutrition due to her growth failure, which is visually evident in photos from the time. Numerous photographs show Gypsy eating, often taken by the very person she accuses of falsely claiming she couldn't. They're cast doubt on accusations of Dee Dee's deliberate restricting food or fabricating conditions. Rather, the evidence of Munchausen syndrome by proxy, the records show a mother adhering to medical advice to ensure her child received proper nutrition. So on the left is a medical document from Tulane University Hospital dated April 20th, 2005, and it says, it's a pediatric express visit. This is an 11-year-old white female known to have muscular dystrophy of unknown etiology, developmental delay, and asthma brought by her mother because of cold symptoms, congestion, coughing for the past 4 days. Also had one-day history of fever. She was seen at a children's hospital on Monday for this problem. She was giving Zopanex and Orapred. However, she did not improve and the cough persisted. And today, when the patient woke up, she coughed up blood, greenish sputum. So mother brought her to this emergency room to be evaluated. The patient has been having cold symptoms for the past 1 week. Appetite has decreased since yesterday, and today the patient refused to eat or drink. Mother was giving her feeding through the G tube. Patient activity is decreased today, and no change in urination and no other active complaints reported. Oh, there's a picture on the right of her feeding tube. Microdeletion also causes GI issues like IBS, and atrophy causes a weakness, slow and poor digestion. She always had it, replaced it at the ER to avoid assessment if it was needed. Huh. I think she kept the tube mainly as it was part of her requirement to have disability money. I kind of agree with that. I do. It says, although Dr. Robert Steele, a physician involved in Gypsy's care, later referred to the feeding tube as an unfortunate decision, records show he was the attending provider at the time of her feeding tube replacement in September of 2005. Moreover, a 2025 FOIA revealed that Gypsy, long framed as a helpless victim of medical abuse, sold unused medical supplies, including feeding tubes, via eBay under a secret email account. That raises ethical and factual questions about the retrospective victim narrative. Wow, I did not know that she was selling that on eBay. Wow, wow, wow. She was a very sick child. No wonder Dee Dee was overprotective. Then Gypsy started putting on an act. Microdeletion is tricky. It seems like so many other diseases. Yeah, I mean, you saw her dancing around to Demona, or as Demona. Interesting. Gypsy's underlying medical condition, microdeletion syndrome, includes growth and feeding problems as known symptoms. A May 3rd, 2004 letter from Quorum Healthcare confirms that enteral feeding and nutrition monitoring has been provided since 2000. By 2004, Gypsy was reported meeting 100% of the U.S. dietary guidelines for vitamins, minerals, calories, and protein. Okay. Although Gypsy had the stature of a 7-year-old at age 12, likely due to her then undiagnosed chromosomal disorder, she was not malnourished. In that context, what Dr. Steele later called unfortunate may in fact have been a medically successful intervention. So on the left, we have Children's Mercy Hospital emergency. Gypsy was seen in the ER on 9/18 for further G-tube change. It is in place. Please follow up. Okay. That was on September 18th, 2007. On the right is from Dr. 𝐻𝐸𝐬𝐞, and this is dated May 3rd, 2004. It says Quorum Healthcare continues to monitor the above patient on her enteral feedings as prescribed. Quorum has been providing enteral feedings and nutrition monitoring on Gypsy since July 2000. She has been on Pediasure, 5 cans a day since the time, except for a trial of Peptamen. Enclosed is a copy of the enteral patient management flow sheet documenting follow-up process for the last 6 months by our home care representative. Gypsy's weight has shown a steady increase from there's a big FOIA sign on it. From number 36 to present weight of number 57. Her height has increased from 120 centimeters to 130, as well as over the past 4 years. Her nutrient intake with 5 cans Pediasure. Okay. This provides, they're just saying she's meeting the caloric stuff. She is meeting 100% of the US RDA for vitamins, minerals, and calories. Okay. So that's just proof. In her 2024 book, Gypsy describes how the scars from her surgery still affect her, particularly when enjoying life's simplest joys, citing steaks and oysters, are examples. While these statements may be emotionally resonant, they are removed from the documented reality of her medical situation at the time the surgeries occurred. Furthermore, steak and oysters are luxury items far out of reach for many who work hard and live honestly. If anything, they suggest that Gypsy's quality of life has improved as a result of the very support system she now publicly discredits. The placement of a feeding tube in Gypsy Rose was not the result of deception, exaggeration, or abuse. It was medically warranted, made by a team of professionals after appropriate evaluations. The available medical documentation, along with context from the genetic disorders and nutritional data, supports the conclusion that this was a necessary and ultimately effective intervention. And we will go through these court documents in depth. So although we're just reading parts of it, we will go through them separately. I forgot to mention the Pediasure. What photo is this? I think it was just her like preparing for her when she was going to tell a story or documentary. She's going through all her records. Some of these court documents indicates Gypsy has unclassified congenital neuromuscular disease and is wheelchair bound. She has history of sleep apnea as a child and also past history of GE reflux, for which she underwent Nissen fundoplication several years ago. So these are some pictures of Gypsy. Oh, geez, these are so like traumatizing to the eyes. She looks so not well. I can't believe how much Dee Dee changed. So dramatic. ATS. She has memory. She has many tats too. I bet she had it tatted already. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Let me take a drink. It's uncomfortable to look at. Okay. In Gypsy's 2024 memoir, she recounts how Dee Dee would tell her stories from her youth. Tells of beauty pageants, childhood glory moments when Dee Dee felt truly special and pretty. Perfectly normal reminiscent, one might think, but Gypsy interprets it as Dee Dee fishing for adoration, grasping for attention, even trying to make her jealous of her mother's memories. Gypsy writes, quote unquote, "It almost seemed like she was trying to make me feel even smaller in my wheelchair with no teeth, malnourished, androgynous, most of the time dressed as a boy. Let's address this. In fairness, Gypsy did have a face only a mother could love, and love it Dee Dee did. We'll even grant her the no attractiveness part, inside or out. But malnourished? No. Gypsy's early failure to thrive was likely the result of her chromosome disorder, not starvation. Once diagnosed, she gained and maintained a healthy weight for her small frame and final height of 4'11". And most of the time dressed as a boy, not quite. Hundreds of images prove otherwise, many of them on this site. Below, you'll find a small set of 2015 crime scene photos of her clothes. We already saw these, the dresses and the clothes in the first set of crime scene photos. In Gypsy's prison emails, we see a different obsession, her hair. She wrote about cutting it when stressed, often after one of her many breakups with Ken. It's always been assumed Dee Dee shaved her head to mimic the look of a chemotherapy patient and create a boyish appearance. We're wondering if it may have been tied to some sort of compulsive behavior in Gypsy herself. Wouldn't cutting her hair be a bigger trauma? Here's some of the clothes. Gypsy professes to miss the very mother she claims, quote unquote, to make me feel even smaller in my wheelchair, with no teeth, malnourished, androgynous, with no attractiveness at all. And these are some of the dresses that Gypsy would wear. This is absolutely wild. I have a question. If Dee Dee was on her arse all the time, how was she able to make her videos for Nick? What happened to Dee Dee when she got obese and changed so much? Yeah, we saw the pictures when Gypsy was a little girl. I even said she looks pretty. She has a face for a radio only mom. Her clothes are nightmare fuel. Poor Dee Dee, she survived cancer only to be buried. I know. The problem is they did scam cancer foundations. That's how she got to make a trip. To those who try and say Gypsy did her hair like that on purpose, I don't agree. I don't agree either, ATS. What child even thinks like that? I think Gypsy is truly mentally ill, you guys. But I think Dee Dee also played a role. Like, I'm not saying one, you have, it takes two to tango in this situation. You know what I mean? Likely the hysterectomy is what changed Dee Dee. Oh, let's look at some of these photos of Gypsy. Oh, I have that in a thumbnail. That one scares me a little bit with the wig. Yeah, like look how much Dee Dee changed right there. Oh, and then there she is at the interrogation. And there she is taking inappropriate pictures. Looking like Prince Charming here. Of course, another manly picture, but she's wearing a princess dress. Wait, I'm curious on this. This is alleged picture she sent her father. She sent her father a butt pic? What the helly? I need to go back to that. Did I read that right? What? I need to go back and see this. Sorry, guys. This is a photo. This is a alleged picture she sent her father. This picture can be seen in the documentary. Her family confirmed that this is Gypsy Rose. Why would she send her father of her body? Her body doesn't look bad there either. Sorry to put the butt in your face, but you guys get my picture. Why would she send her dad that? Yeah, Tippy, I agree. Dee Dee did a psychological number on Gypsy, but I think Gypsy also plays a role into it. I'm confused by Make-A-Wish. They need to prove proof of terminal illness. I'm wondering if an idiot doctor said she may have had leukemia. Daddy issues. We'll go through some of these emails in full. Gypsy claims, delivered with her trademark sinister overtones, that medications were put through her medieval weapon of torture, otherwise known as a feeding tube. In reality, that's a perfectly normal procedure. She goes further, insinuating that Dee Dee could have put anything through the tube while she was asleep, ironically implying that nothing sinister happened while she was awake. But you don't just pour liquid straight into a feeding tube. Dee Dee would have had to attach an extension set, a fiddly procedure to pull off without waking a sleeping child. In prison confessions, Gypsy seems shocked when told that her medical records she claims to have read, stated she had a fear of eating. That's ridiculous, she says. I mean, is that something my mom said? No, it was something a team of feeding specialists said. When the interviewer confirms this, Gypsy doubles down. Wow, no, I never had a fear of eating. Again, medical professionals disagreed. Gypsy also claims she spent 6 months as an inpatient in New Orleans Children's Hospital immediately after the feeding tube placement. Logic dictates if she didn't need the tube, she wouldn't have left 6 months later with one still in place. Could she maybe have needed like all of this medically and then it became something else in her head? Leukemia is a mixed diagnosis to microdeletion. Yeah, I remember that ATS. That who did put that on the record. Dee Dee claims she lost her records after the hurricane. Jippy. Oh no. Is that her new nickname, Jippy? Gypsy insists that she had the feeding tube changed every 6 months until she was 24. The interviewer asks her, so twice a year for 15 years? Gypsy responds, for 15 years. And she says each replacement was pretty painful because they don't put you under anesthesia. But here's the truth. Only one doctor, Dr. Steele, the same one who called her tube an unfortunate decision, ever requested a replacement. The tube was not regularly maintained or replaced every 6 months, as she claims. According to her medical records, replacements only occurred when it became infected, and infections happen when Gypsy didn't clean it. We could list every date Gypsy had her feeding tube changed. We could list every time she said she didn't need it. But it's more effective to let Gypsy dig her own hole. In fact, Gypsy was almost 24 the last time she had it replaced, something we know from text messages to Nick during his Greyhound trip to kill Dee Dee. In those messages, she said she had just been to the ER for a replacement and it wouldn't need changing it again for at least a year if it got infected. She even admits she could change it herself. Not once in those messages does she complain about pain, question why she still had it, or say she wanted it removed. Yet in later interviews, she claims she pleaded with Dee Dee, "Can you please get rid of the feeding tube? I don't need it." She had it up until the crime. Gypsy was a minor. It's not her job to change. I can't stand her, but if she was underage for any of those replacement, it wasn't on her. Over 18 is different, I guess. True. And also true, Kimmy, about the leukemia. In 2018, Gypsy stated, quote unquote, "I knew I didn't need the feeding tube." If that's true, why was she planning to keep it after Dee Dee's death? Why did she bring a spare one with her when fleeing the crime scene in 2015? Yes, when she was entered into prison, Gypsy was quick to have the tube removed and to film herself doing it. That doesn't prove she was innocent victim forced to use something she didn't. It only proves she was happy to remove it after being charged with first-degree murder. I also didn't know that. She had that still when she showed up to prison? What? May 3rd. Okay, yeah, this is where she said she was fine. Okay, and these are screenshots from Gypsy, June 8th, 2015. It says, "Darling, I'm going to go to the ER to get my tube changed. I'll be on my phone for a few hours." It was a 6-hour wait in the ER. At least it's done, so we're good for a year. It can even be done by me, but I won't unless I have to. So those are screenshots of the text messages. To Nick. What the helly? In 2017, Christy Blanchard puts on her best shocked face for cameras in Mommy, Dead and Dearest. When Gypsy's attorney and manager, Mike, tells her about a doctor's 2007 suspicion that Gypsy might be the victim of Munchausen syndrome by proxy, Christy gasps, "What? Unfreaking believable." And it would have kept going because her mama was an insane, compulsive liar. But here's the thing, Christy herself had told Mike about the suspicion years earlier, 2 years earlier, to be specific. So what's with the theatrics? And yes, you heard that right. Christy Blanchard, of all people, accusing someone else of being an insane, compulsive liar. This is from the same Christy who in 2018 confidently told Ozarks First, quote unquote, "Gypsy does have a lazy eye if she doesn't wear her glasses all the time. That was since she was a little baby. Everything else was a lie." No, not everything, Christy. So operation date. This is dated April 16th, 2007. It says siloxane drops and cottons were placed in ear canal. The patient tolerated procedure well, and the patient then had dental restorations performed by Dr. Bullard, who will be dictating his part of the procedure. Dr. Evelyn Colquitt was present and available for the procedure. Gypsy's own medical records confirm a condition both she and Christy deny: asthma. When Aaron Lee Carr asked Gypsy in Mommy Dead and Dearest, quote unquote, what illness did your mother say you had? Gypsy includes asthma in a list of made up conditions, but her medical records tell a different story. Over a decade of appointments for asthma, retinitis, and food allergies, with her last visit as late as of November 26, 2013, when she was 22 years old. If asthma were made up, why did doctors spend more than 10 years treating her for them? Back in 2004 and 2005, Gypsy attended sleep clinics monitored by trained medical staff where mild asthma and controlled retinitis were recorded. I hope I'm saying that right. Not by Dee, by medical specialists. Who exactly are the insane compulsive liars now? It just seems, yeah, she's a sicko. I know. But I think Gypsy really does a child like stuff deliberately because she discovered its power over people. I know. I keep thinking it's freaking Gypsy being the insane compulsive liar. Okay, allergies. After her arrest in 2015, Detective Stan Hancock noted, quote unquote, Gypsy said she drank some milk and forgot she was allergic to milk. Said no one with a real milk allergy ever. Following surgery to remove her submandibular glands in 2005, Gypsy claims, I started being allergic to the antibiotics that was trying to make me heal faster. Wow. In the prison confessions in 2024, she accuses Dee of giving her too much medication she was allergic to, supposedly to cause a reaction. Dee could photograph as proof of sugar allergy. If that were true, the nutritionist treating Gypsy for failure to thrive wouldn't have kept prescribing Pediasure, which contains both milk proteins and natural sugar up to the day of her arrest. When police searched Gypsy's backpack after her arrest, they found a packet of allergy medication. The facts are straightforward. Gypsy had asthma. Gypsy had allergies. The medical records say so. The specialists say so, and the evidence says so. Food Allergy Action Plan. And here's a copy of that. Which was received through FOIA. In countless documentaries and interviews, Rod and Christy solemnly recall what they say Dee told them about Gypsy's short life expectancy. Rod says, Dee told me she's not going to live to be, 18 years old. She may be an old teenager. That's about it. I was really like, it was shocking and it was disturbing. Rod then says, Dee told me she's not going to live to be 20 years old. Christy says in the prison confessions, when Gypsy was around 8, Dee called one day and said she was diagnosed with leukemia and wouldn't live beyond the age of 12. Which was it, 12, 18, or 20? Medical records show that Dee first told doctors Gypsy had leukemia when she was 5 years old, specifically acute lymphatic leukemia. So Dee told doctors she had leukemia? A 2007 record indicates remission 10 years. Another lists the word chemotherapy. But without access to pre-May 2000 records, we can't prove or disprove Dee's claim. And these are the medical records that Dee claims were ruined in the hurricane, right? Interesting. But without access, I already read that. Sorry. FOIA files released in April of 2025 include a 2015 crime scene image of a handwritten document, likely by Dee, listing Gypsy's alleged conditions. She is confined to a wheelchair, must be fed through a tube, and suffers from asthma, epilepsy, and Faltman's anemia, which is a form of leukemia. Faltman's anemia, sorry. She is vision and hearing impaired, microcephalic, and developmentally delayed. That anemia doesn't exist. Fanconi anemia does, a rare inherited disorder that increases cancer risk and causes bone marrow failure, sometimes treated with a bone marrow transplant. Melissa Moore, the co-author of Gypsy's 2024 books and an executive producer of Gypsy Rose, claims she found documentation of a bone marrow transplant in Gypsy's medical records. The records, we were told, were destroyed in Hurricane Katrina. Which means they can't say for certain that Gypsy had Fanconi anemia. In several records, Dee Dee mentions a 2001 car accident in which she almost severed her foot and sustained a head injury, allegedly resulting in memory problems. Could that be true? Maybe. There are points in the records where she says she can't remember all of Gypsy's illnesses or when they began. And in fairness, Gypsy did have a laundry list of legitimate health problems, some clearly diagnosed, other ambiguous. Awful for the patient, yes, but it fell entirely on Dee Dee to manage them while also searching for answers. Rod was nowhere to be found. It's not hard to imagine it was overwhelming. Gypsy's date of birth shifts in records, sometimes 91, sometimes 1992, sometimes 1995. In one instance, 2 different birth dates appear on 2 separate medical records from the same day, April 4th, 2007. But there's no discernible pattern here, nothing to suggest deliberate deception, as much as the Gypsy train would love us to think otherwise. Screenshots of select med records show that Gypsy had leukemia. So did Dee Dee just say she had leukemia, or did they actually test her for it medically? I didn't see that. Beautifully broken. None of her issues are gone. Did you see all the bands and shoes in the hospital? No, I didn't. I'll have to look into some of that. It says Gypsy Rose's diagnosis, epilepsy, paralyzed, weakened now than last year, quadrophilia, hypoventilation, asthma, heart murmur. According to Rod Blanchard's second wife, Christy, Gypsy attended school for only a short time. When Gypsy was old enough to attend school, she was excited. I don't even think she went the whole year, says Christy. Christy says Dee Dee pulled Gypsy out because she was afraid they wouldn't give her the medication right. But the more likely explanation, Dee Dee chose to homeschool Gypsy for legitimate reasons, chief among them her many health conditions. One of Dee Dee's friends recalls that as a teenager, Gypsy could read the entire Lord of Rings trilogy and discuss the symbolism in the films. Yes, the public story shifts. In 2017, Dr. Phil asked Gypsy if she remembered going to school. Gypsy says, I've never been to school. Dr. Phil says, did you ever go to kindergarten? And Gypsy says, no, sir. At Gypsy's pretrial hearing on July 5th, 2016, she answered differently. The question was, how far did you go in school? Gypsy says, about the 2nd grade. Perhaps Dr. Mark Feldman and Dr. Phil might like to diagnose that contradiction. In March 2025, a sharp Reddit user spotted a detail. The dress Gypsy wears in one photograph matches the school uniform at Holy Rosary Catholic School in La Rose, not far from where Rod lived. Yeah, I know some of you have said that Gypsy Rose just lied in that Dr. Phil interview. Yeah. The handwritten document mentioned earlier, the one listing Gypsy's supposed health conditions, also claimed Rod abandoned Dee Dee and Gypsy shortly after Gypsy's birth, contributing nothing financially. It goes further, alleging Rod refused to pay for homeschooling because Dee Dee insisted on Christian teachings, which he opposed. While we can't prove the claims outright, court records covered later confirm Dee Dee did take Rod to court for child support, unpaid alimony, and medical expenses. And yes, Dee Dee was a grifter, but deadbeat dad Rod might want to ask himself why. No content with implying Dee Dee denied Gypsy an education. Rod also claims Dee Dee wouldn't allow him alone time with his daughter. She wouldn't even leave her with me for an hour or anything. So she was with her all the time. Could that have anything to do with Rod's substance abuse issues? The same one Christy revealed to Fancy Michelli, earning herself a scolding from Rod for talking. Mothers keep sick children close. It's called maternal instinct, and no sensible parent, whether the child has medical records medical needs or not, would leave them in the care of someone with a history of alcohol and substance abuse. Dee Dee couldn't win. Damned if she did. Damned because she didn't. Now we know why she didn't. Yeah, I have sus feelings on Rod, especially after that picture of her butt. Like, why was she sending her dad that? Hey, KMB, better late than never. You're right. And thank you for being here. I appreciate you. So interesting. In December of 2023, Gypsy shifted her story yet again, claiming she only attended kindergarten. So is she lying, or does she have brain issues and can't remember? I think both things can be true. Gypsy needed some surgeries, but they were also scamming. And I think when Gypsy learned and became deceitful, that could have changed. And in a prison email dated May 31st, 2020, Rod told Gypsy he was, quote unquote, disappointed to learn that her then boyfriend, Ken, had used cocaine. Rod also admitted he did his fair share of drugs in his younger years. We can only wonder how that shaped Dee Dee's choices. Michelle Dean, an executive producer of the hit 2019 Hulu drama The Act, has already stumbled on the truth of the story back in 2016. She wrote, Dee Dee explained the increasingly bewildering array of problems to Rod by saying that Gypsy had a chromosomal defect. Many of Gypsy's health issues, she claimed, stemmed from that one thing. Dean framed it as a claim. It wasn't. Dee Dee was telling the truth. But fame, fortune, and selective storytelling proved far more valuable than the truth. And the truth was their first casualty. For the record, Christy does not approve of the act. Like Christy, Blanchard really does not approve of it. In April 4th of 2019 interview with Kenny from Vulture, Christy said, quote unquote, when we first talked about the act, Michelle had told me she was going to talk to the producers because she wanted us to be included. She called me a couple of days after the fact and said that the producers, and she didn't say who they were, did not want us to interact because I might tell who's ever playing our parts that, oh, you're walking wrong. And I'm like, seriously? And we're like, seriously? Christy hadn't been involved in most of Gypsy's life. Why would she be, quote unquote, included in telling it? Or worse, put herself forward as some bottomless well of insight? Well, Christy went on. Christy says, Michelle told me whatever she made, it didn't matter what it was. She was going to send us 50% of what was made, and she was going to keep 50%. And then a couple of days later, she told me she talked to the producers and they didn't want to interact with us. When asked why she'd even want to be deeply involved in yet another televised retelling the case, Christy gave the noble sounding answer that it was about getting the whole truth out there. She said, we're not going to fabricate anything. And if Gypsy's truth can help save a life, then it's worth it. And she wants the truth out there. The whole truth is exactly what Gypsy herself would have least wanted out there. What Christy seemed to want was not the truth. It was money. And I absolutely agree with that. I think Christy is such a clout chaser, and she thought that she was going to be able to come up. And Rod is a deadbeat dad and a pervert, apparently, for accepting a butt pic of his daughter. Not okay. Okay, let's continue. In 2019, Gypsy released a statement from prison, and she said this. I am unable to watch the act. However, I feel it is very unfair and unprofessional that producers and co-producer Michelle Dean have used my actual name and story without my consent and the rights to do so. Therefore, there will be legal action taken against the show's creator. I want to share my story and bring awareness about Munchausen by proxy. No child should ever be abused, especially from their parent. This is Dee Dee Blanchard's story. Dee Dee is no longer in the position to assert life rights to anything told about her. Why would the person who planned, orchestrated, and participated in her murder be able to profit from that act? You don't see Nick go to John demanding payment every time his story is told incorrectly. And that's a very, very true fact. Gypsy's many diagnosed health issues entitled Dee Dee to Social Security and disability benefits, on top of whatever, if anything, Rod was actually paying in child support. Rod said, quote unquote, I promised Dee Dee I would always pay her child support along with alimony and cover all the medical expenses and health insurance for Gypsy. I paid Dee Dee until the day she died. We think Rod should now be barred from using the word promise because where's the proof? Are we really supposed to believe that a father was paying child support for his 23-year-old adult daughter and alimony to his ex-wife for almost 25 years? And I think this has proved to be false, that he didn't. The only evidence comes from a scrap of paper shown at the top right, which could have been written by anyone at any time. And that's this piece of paper right here. Actual evidence tells a different story. Dee Dee had to take Rod to court for unpaid child support, unpaid alimony, and unpaid medical bills. Court records show that he was on his final warning to appear, facing possible jail time if he didn't. Rod claimed he paid $1,200 a month in child support. Christy's close friend puts it at $1,000. The real number, official court documents show $250 per month. The same records reveal Rod owed $1,300 in back alimony and thousands more in unpaid medical expenses for Gypsy. And the award for Father of the Year definitely does not go to Rod. My dad's scratch sheet for his child support payments in 1995 and 96. And this is a note. Gypsy's child support. 250, 210, 400, 210, 400, 150, 210, 210. What he alleged to have paid. She's still making money. Yeah, it's gross. She made money off of this. No, I think that's one reason Dee Dee always needed money. She was also on food stamps. Again, could two things be true at once? Maybe she wanted the benefits and the money, but maybe she didn't need them. Maybe she was scamming, but maybe she didn't need them. Just like Gypsy. Medicaid covered most of Gypsy's care, but Dee Dee expected Rod to pay what Medicaid wouldn't. Rod claims he offered to put Gypsy on his private health plan, but we're somehow meant to believe Dee Dee, who monetized everything she could, refused this golden opportunity. Rod also claimed Dee Dee scammed him out of $150,000 between unnecessary medical expenses and child support after she turned 18. Let's hope Rod and Christy managed to claw back some of those scam dollars by exploiting Dee Dee's brutal murder. At least we forget, Rod was also taken to court for failing to pay child support for his second daughter, Nicolette. One wonders what Christy has to say about that. FOIA documents obtained in June of 2025 confirmed Dee Dee and Gypsy were both receiving disability benefits from the Social Security Administration at the time of Dee Dee's murder. Initially, the SSA planned a joint disability fraud investigation. After Dee Dee's death, they closed the case against her, but when asked about pursuing Gypsy, they declined. The reason? Gypsy was not the one who made the application. Once again, adult Gypsy sidestepped the consequences. Could that also be a motive for the murder? The fact that they were being investigated for fraud? Dee Dee had health issues too. I don't think she worked anymore as nurses. She probably got addicted to the charity. The house they showed was built brand new for them, and the brand new cart was donated to them as well. Yeah, they found $15K in her room. I think Dee Dee was just a scammer. Big difference between $250, I know, Nikki. Good to see you, girl, and $1,200. Yeah. Rod told Dr. Phil, quote unquote, the relationship it did a 180 and we started fighting. Well, not fighting, but she kind of just hounded me down, taking me back and forth for child support. I tried supporting her financially the best I could, which I guess to her was still never enough. So she was taking me to court for additional medical bills. The court ordered that I'll be obligated to provide. Exactly. It wasn't Dee Dee being spiteful. It was a judge ordering Rod to pay for the care of a sick daughter he abandoned. What would Rod have preferred? Dee Dee to just roll over and die? Well, I guess she did. In March 15th of 2023, in a prison email, Gypsy wrote that Dee Dee worked in a bar when Gypsy was a toddler and later did odd jobs like photo restoration. Odd considering Rod allegedly supported Dee Dee until the day she died. About $2,800 per month in 2025 dollars plus Social Security and food stamps. That's a comfortable living for a single mom. We don't know many mothers who'd leave a sick child to pull pints unless money was tight. And these are screenshots of court records that show Rod paid child support. And we'll go through those in depth later. And Mother Knows Best, Gypsy says she was about 7 years old when she got into a motorcycle accident with her grandfather. And here is a picture of her and her grandfather. She said she scraped her knee. Dee Dee took her to the hospital and she was given a wheelchair. According to Gypsy, Dee Dee told her it would be forever. Fast forward to 2024 and the story has evolved. Now, Gypsy claims she was like 5 years old when the accident happened and that Dee Dee turned it into a bigger event than it was. This time her leg was put in a brace. In another 2024 interview, Gypsy recalls her mother simply wheeling in a wheelchair one day and bluntly ordering her to use it. In her memoir in 2024, Gypsy repeats the age 5 version. That's already two different accounts, but under oath at Nicholas Godejohn's 2018 trial, Gypsy told the jury she'd been in a wheelchair since probably about 8 years old. According to the new post-prison Gypsy, the wheelchair arrived a full 2 years before the accident even happened. Was the wheelchair actually necessary? 4 kids, total 3 moms for Rod. Plot twist, Dee and Gypsy both had Munchausen. That's the one where you do it all yourself rather than Dee Dee doing this all to Gypsy. Though I don't want the father of my child to contribute to their care. It sure seems like they both had it. A lot of the medication pantry was Dee Dee's meds too. I agree, Kimmy. One event, 3 different ages. We'd like to say you couldn't make this up, but apparently Gypsy Rose can. Rod isn't much clearer. In 2018, he says he first saw Gypsy in a wheelchair at age 7 and knew she could still walk. Quote unquote, I would ask Dee Dee, what's wrong with her legs? She told me muscular dystrophy. That is terrifying to hear about your child. A year later, Rod sounds less certain. Quote unquote, I heard from her family that Gypsy could walk and I was confused, but the relationship was so fragile, I didn't do my due diligence. By August of 2024, in a TikTok live with Fancy Michelli, Rod's memory has slipped again. Fancy asks, when was the last time you saw your daughter walk? Rod responds with, she was probably 3 or 4 years old. Fancy says, so from 3 years old, you never saw her walk? Rod says, not that I recall. Well, not that he recalls. A father who can't remember if his daughter last walked at 3, 4, or 7. There's even a photo of Rod, Dee Dee, and a very much upright, unassisted Gypsy at around age 7. That might help jog the old absent father memory. In this picture on the right, Gypsy aged around 7 years of age in a wheelchair. And then here's that other picture. Wow. Asked why he never sought visitation rights, Rod shrugged, I was busy working. Life, you know. Bobby Petrie, Dee Dee's nephew and serial tattoo parlor promoter, also weighed in. We all knew she could walk. We'd play, we'd hang out. Dee Dee would tell her that her legs were going to give her trouble or that they'd collapse and she'd go soak them in the tub. As far as how old Gypsy was when he last saw her walk, Bobby has his own creative timeline. First it was 8, then 7, then 4. Bobby had been chasing media attention long before Dee Dee's murder. The chance he had been waiting for finally arrived in 2015. Bobby says in 2017, I wish Dee Dee would come back to life so I could kill that bitch as slow as possible. Bobby in 2019 says she was pretty effing crazy. She deserved to die. For the record, movement disorders from muscle stiffness or weakness can be symptoms of a chromosome disorder. And one medical record dated August 23rd, 2000 suggests that motorcycle accident may have happened when Gypsy was 9, but in a family where no one kept their life straight, who can say? And this is from Tulane Hospital. Exam date August 23rd, 2000. 9-year-old female, status post motor accident, right knee pain. Why would you need a wheelchair for just knee pain? Wouldn't they have done x-rays or something? Rod is a piece of work. I agree. Sarah says Gypsy said she fell off her gyp shit. I like that, Sarah. Gyp shit says she fell off granddad motorcycle, grazed her legs, and Dee Dee acquired her a wheelchair. Why a wheelchair? If she had a scratch and just like, did they do an x-ray? Did she break her knee? Was it fractured? I mean, if I just go into the hospital and ask for a wheelchair, doctor, like my doctor's gonna be like, why do you need it? Like, what's going on? You know what I mean? I'm sure you can go buy one at a medical durable equipment store, but where did Dee Dee get the wheelchair from? Did they say it was from? Oh, she got it at the hospital. In some interviews, Rod remembers Dee Dee as the best mom in the world. There's no way I can do what you're doing. You have a sick child. It's constantly 24/7 taking care of her. I have always praised her, he said, and mommy dead and dearest. In others, the tone changes entirely. All the visits, Dee Dee had to be there the whole time. Something never felt right about it. Dee Dee was so controlling, he said in 2018. Firstly, there's no way I can do what you're doing is not what the mother of a sick child wants to hear from someone who allegedly wants to spend alone time with their child. Secondly, this was during Rod's own drug and alcohol abuse years. Maybe it wasn't Dee Dee that never felt right. Christy Blanchard echoes the great mother version. Quote unquote, we thought great mom taking care of Gypsy. I told Rod so many times. I don't know how she does it. Never saw red flags. That was in 2019. On June 16, 2015, just days after Dee Dee's body was found, Christy introduced herself on Facebook as Gypsy's grieving stepmother and tagged a local news station in the post. She hadn't seen Gypsy in 11 years. And here's a screenshot of that post. Christy says, okay, my supporters, I need a favor. I would like for all of you to go find Lifetime on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram and tell them your thoughts on how wrong this was portrayed. Go under the post of love you to death and emphasize on how wrong this was made. They're making people think that Gypsy knew her mom had Munchausen when she had no clue. This will help get some justice for Gyps. Thanks in advance. In 2017, when Gypsy was asked to describe Dee Dee in one word, she didn't choose abusive. She laughed and said, unique. Pressed again, and she said a little protective, overprotective. She still didn't mention it was abusive. A year later, she admitted, when I was younger, it was a lot better just because she was like a best friend to me. We used to do things different or together all the time. Movies, park, the zoo. And who was it who gave Gypsy those childhood memories? The one constant in her life, and that was Dee Dee. On June 9th, 1997, Dee Dee's beloved mother, Emma, died at the age of 59. Her brother, Evans, recalls, when my mom passed away, Dee Dee took it hard. Her world came crumbling down. Bobby offered his own diagnosis. I think ever since my grandmother died, Dee Dee went off the deep end. A friend who said Dee Dee and Emma adored each other posted after Dee Dee's murder that Emma's death triggered a mental collapse. But Laura, Claude's second wife, Gypsy's grandpa, painted a darker picture. She accused Dee Dee of neglecting her ailing mother. When Emma was sick, Dee Dee left her dirty and asking for food. That's evil. So could have maybe Dee Dee's issues with her mother caused her to play a role in some of this with Gyps shit? No, just Gray's Gyps shit. Think Dee Dee nicked it. Doctors didn't give one. Oh, I see. Why not say, I wish she was alive so I can get her help? People call her Gypsy after Gypsy's Demona video saying she will have a baby for Nick. Oh no, that disturbs me. Christy Blanchard took this further, accusing Dee Dee of killing her own mother by starvation. In 2004, while filmed visiting Emma's grave, Christy ominously recounted, quote unquote, the day her mom died, Dee Dee was in the house starving her. I asked her sister, do you think Dee Dee had anything to do with your mom's death? And she said, now I wonder. That's how evil she was. Arguably, the word evil could also apply to monetizing a grave site visit for the cameras. No medical evidence has ever supported Christie's accusation. No police report was filed. No coroner found the death suspicious. No doctor raised a concern. And yet, 27 years later, Christie confesses she had doubts. If Emma truly had been starved, would none of Dee Dee's 5 siblings nor Claude have noticed or intervened? Christie just seems like such a clout chaser and user. Even Gypsy spoke of her grandmother with affection. In a prison email dated August 10th, 2019, she wrote, with tenderness, making no mention of foul play. Less than 2 years later, another email suggested Emma may have purposely made Dee Dee sick as a child, mirroring what Dee Dee alleged did to Gypsy. Emma adored Dee Dee. We wonder what she would have said about this case. So here's pictures. Gypsy and Dee Dee. Wow. Claude, Dee Dee's father, married Laura, a hospital housekeeper, about a year after Emma's death. Let's just say it had been on the cards for quite a while. Bobby sets the stage. Dee Dee was very upset about that happening. Christy Blanchard, still no blood relation to anyone central in the story, adds her dramatic flair. Dee Dee had a vengeful side. If she wanted you to do something, she went for the jugular. In Christy's case, we sincerely hope so. Laura claims Dee Dee was putting some poison, the weed killer Roundup, in my food, the same thing she put in the plant. Claude backed her up. She stayed in bed 9 months after that. She couldn't get up. I didn't think she was going to make it. According to Claude, Gypsy later told him Dee Dee was putting vitamins in Laura's food, vitamins that conveniently were weed killer. Gypsy, age 7 or 8 at the time, added from prison, Dee Dee hated Laura. It would be in her character to do. That's an incredible statement coming from an actual convicted murder. So Laura claims that Dee Dee was poisoning her because she was mad that her dad had remarried. Bobby, moonlighting as both coroner and psychiatrist, declared of Laura's 2018 death, quote unquote, I guarantee you it had a lot to do with that poisoning from Roundup. A decade after the alleged poisoning, a very slow death indeed. Bobby also provided a no doubt psychological profile of an aunt he hadn't seen in 17 years. Real weird girl. I would think she's bipolar, no doubt multiple personalities perhaps. Definitely an evil person. For Christy Blanchard would later admit that Emma and Laura hated each other, further conceding Laura wasn't exactly a saint. According to Christy, Laura once stole a photo from Dee's hospital locker, cut Dee Dee's face into pieces, and threw him away and blamed Christy for it. And people wonder why Dee Dee moved away from Louisiana. In a 2024 podcast, Gypsy claimed, quote unquote, my mother suffered from a lot of mental illness. She was diagnosed with bipolar and schizophrenia. She used to say she heard voices and saw shapes. And there's no record of Dee Dee being diagnosed with any of those mental illnesses. As with the allegations over Emma's death, no police reports were ever filed to back up the claim that Dee Dee tried to murder Laura. Surely the doctors treating Laura during her 9 months in bed or the coroner after her death would have noticed signs of poisoning. That's 2 people now that Dee Dee allegedly tried to kill. And yet Rod and Christy Blanchard were perfectly content to let her raise Rod's child largely without their involvement. Why? Because Dee Dee never tried to kill anyone. More pictures. They say they do see a future, but now they're not even pitching to get her home. They want her moved into a mental facility. Cutting off is waiting for her. She will not have a normal life. They're talking about, I think, Laura. After 9-year on and on, off again saga, Rod and Christy Blanchard finally tied the knot on March 5th, 1999. A source from the Bayou tells us Dee Dee was Christy's maid of honor, claiming she's in the wedding photo standing just to the right of the radiant bride. Rod's daughter, Nicolette, was there too, alongside with her mother, Jill, and Jill's new husband. Christy's son Dylan attended, and on the far left, another very potentially significant person made an appearance. We'll just leave that hanging. One big happy family. Not according to Christy. In her version, Dee Dee didn't attend at all. Christy claims Dee Dee tried to stop the wedding by insisting she and Rod were still married. Lies. That's wild. She was misdiagnosed because they had not discovered the microdeletion yet. Add that to Gypsy lying and pretending to be experiencing symptoms she wasn't. Therapy only helps you cope. It doesn't change you into a new person either. That's also true. In 2024 interview, Christy insisted she tried to do everything to ruin our relationship. By 2025, the story had escalated. Quote unquote, I told Father Dean to lock all the doors in the church because if she walked in, it'd be the first time that bitch got her ass kicked in a church. Yet there, Dee Dee allegedly is standing beside the bride smiling for the camera. 2 years later, in 2001, Christy and Rod's daughter Mia was born. Unlike his first two children, Rod somehow managed to make time to be an active presence in Christy's children's life. And here's marriage license proof. And we're almost done, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Gypsy claims she was about 9 when Laura threw her and Dee Dee out of the house she shared with Laura and Claude, after Dee Dee allegedly tried to murder Laura, the former mistress. According to Gypsy, this eviction gave Dee Dee free range to create new illnesses for me, have me put on more medications, make things worse. Gypsy was 15 when she left Louisiana. Rod lived in Louisiana. In 2024 memoir, Gypsy says, I didn't write this, so I'm not accountable for anything. The story morphs. Now, the eviction supposedly happened because Dee Dee's eldest brother and his family felt that they had more right to Emma's old home than her favorite child. Rod's version is a slow drift. He says, as Gypsy got older, they moved further and further away. It got harder and harder to see her. I'd go visit, spend a couple of hours. We'd start building a little bond. Then it would be 3 or 4 months before we could see each other again. 3 or 4 months between visits says plenty about Rod's priorities. And here's some pictures of them together. Medicine back then is not the same as it is today. That's right, Elijah. Yes, blame 3 different guys in total. Yes, she did it. Believed that's a lie too. Rod offers 2 explanations for Dee Dee's moves. To stop him bonding with Gypsy, it was like Dee Dee was never letting us build that father-daughter relationship, and to hide the abuse. There was nobody there to question that anymore. There wasn't much questioning going on before they moved. Maybe because there was nothing to question, or maybe just Dee Dee was escaping a different problem entirely. In a 2025 TikTok, Christy Blanchard let something slip. She said, we didn't know Dee Dee had a police report on Rod in Missouri, in fear. When I read that she left Louisiana because she was in fear of ex-husband, I told the cop that should have been my name on there because her and I got into it all the time. A police report against Rod, frequent blow-ups with Christy. Suddenly, Dee Dee's relocations make a lot more sense. And here's more pictures of Rod with Gypsy. Rod also claims Dee Dee turned Gypsy against him, citing a McDonald's trip where she was scared of me. She was shaking. Funny, photos of them together showing a smiling Gypsy, not a trembling one. If she shook at all, it must have been from seeing Rod's own battered-looking face. Rod's I did the best I could narrative doesn't hold. The first 5 years were hard, he says. They lived locally, not far. We did some visits. Then we slips in. We always stayed in communication, physical visits. They moved when Gypsy was 9. Rod was already absent long before Dee Dee and Gypsy left town. His real bonding phase didn't begin until Gypsy was 23, under media spotlights and paid interviews. After Dee Dee's murder, neighbors saw Rod and Christy emptying her home. Claudia and Dorla apparently approved until they realized what little they got. A friend of Dee Dee's sister reported, quote unquote, Rod and Christy came here with a U-Haul and got what they wanted for Gypsy. Claudia got a moo-moo and a picture. That's it. Christy insists she only took Gypsy's belongings and things they'd bought for her. But if it wasn't a lot, why the U-Haul? Souvenirs, trophies, evidence, like vultures at a carcass, all of them. And in December of 2024, Gypsy rewrote the eviction story again. This time she was 5, not 9, and it was no longer Claude Sr.'s house, but Dee Dee's brother's house. Screenshots, Facebook users reporting Rhoda and Christy cleared out Dee Dee's house. So there's proof of that. Christy says in a post, some things we gave to churches, the neighbors, Goodwill. We took home what Gyps wanted, which was pictures and the things we bought her. Other than that, we gave it all away. Nothing was left except the hospital bed in the house after 2 days of cleaning it out. In a letter later presented to the court during one of Gypsy's pretrial hearings, Dee Dee's sister Dorla admits she knew Gypsy could walk. Even here, the account starts to slip. Dorla describes an afternoon when Dee Dee left Gypsy in the family's care to run to the store. The moment Dee Dee was out of sight, Gypsy supposedly leapt out of her wheelchair and began bouncing on the trampoline. Spotted Dee Dee's return, Dorla says Gypsy collapsed like a rag doll. Dorla claims Dee Dee marched over, yelled at Gypsy, yanked her off the trampoline, bundled her into the car, and drove away before we could ask any questions. Because, of course, asking questions is apparently the rare sport in the family. Dee Dee's brother Evans also remembers the trampoline episode, but in his version, Dee Dee simply said, "Don't you know she's crippled?" To which Evans replied, "We've all seen different." Then he says Dee Dee put Gypsy back in the wheelchair and rolled her into the house for the rest of the day. So Dorla sees a dramatic getaway in a car. Evans sees a quiet roll back into the living room. Same incident, different movie. Dorla also recalls a surprise visit from Dee Dee and 9-year-old Gypsy while Dorla and her sister Claudia were on a beach vacation. Dee Dee, claiming Gypsy had no feeling in her legs, let Claudia carry her piggyback along the sand. Later, when Dee Dee popped out for clothes, Gypsy allegedly began jumping from bed to bed, stopping cold when Dee Dee returned. And again, nobody asked a thing. On May 3rd of 2024, coincidentally, Dee Dee's birthday, Gypsy gave a beachside interview claiming she had never been to the beach, ever. Her sisters would beg to differ. The photographic evidence disagrees too. We have the beach she didn't visit on a family trip, the other beach she didn't visit on another trip, and the beach Dee Dee's friend definitely didn't take her to, where Gypsy's definitely didn't make sand angels. In 2024, Gypsy also claimed she'd never been on a swing. We've got multiple childhood photos that say otherwise. So this is allegedly her first time on the beach. In these pictures. I'm sorry, she looks like a psycho. Was this Gypsy at the beach in the wheelchair? And here's a picture of that. New family lives there, yikes. Laura paints the picture of Dee Dee as a fugitive on the run. The minute she'd have set foot in the Bayou, the law would have arrested her. She made bad checks in Slidell, bad checks in New Orleans. Her father, Claude Sr., adds for good measure, quote unquote, no matter where she went, she was doing all kinds of stuff. The family chorus doesn't stop there. Dorla pushes the outlaw Dee Dee Blanchard narrative further. She wasn't a stranger to the law. She would shoplift. She was wanted for writing bad checks. She stole from many people. She would get so many credit cards and then eat my dead mother's name and run up the bills like crazy. She was going to do anything anyhow to get her way. And there's a Dee Dee mugshot and criminal record. Wow. Somebody please rein in the nephew before the next tale involves a high-speed boat chase in the FBI. Christy Blanchard never went to miss a swing ads. There was an active warrant out for her arrest in La Farouche Parish for writing bad checks. For the record, while Dee Dee's check fraud isn't admirable, we still rank aggravated burglary and carrying an unlicensed firearm as more serious offenses, not naming names, of course. And speaking of Christy, she seems to have a running commentary on Dee Dee's every breath. One day, perhaps she'll grace us with the reason Rod thought he was headed for juvenile detention in high school. Or better yet, a list of Rod's drug of choice so we can understand exactly what Dee Dee might have been fleeing. In 2024, Gypsy indirectly but very directly addresses the online chatter about this photo and one of the 2 steamlining piles of literature she sanctioned. One of the hundreds of Dee Dee's photographs scooped up by Rod and Christy after Dee Dee's death, this was one of the few Gypsy personally chose for her inclusion in the book, Conversations on the Eve of Freedom. Gypsy suggests Christy took the photo. Gypsy's 2004 selective memory memoir, My Time to Stand That Couldn't Keep It in His Pants, Rod told her he only slept with Dee Dee 3 times. Gypsy also claimed Dee Dee and Rod divorced in 1992. Court documents say 1994. According to one of Gypsy's prison emails, Dee Dee found love again when Gypsy was 5 with a man named Mark, who even fixed up a room for them in his house. But Gypsy didn't like Mark because he wasn't Rod, so she spat out on him, and that was the end of that. As far as we know, Dee Dee never had another romantic partner for the rest of her life. Even at 5, the daddy issues had already pulled into the station. I had remembered a faded memory from when I was very little at 5. Mom had a friend named Mark. This is from Gypsy. He liked her and he fixed a room and a place for her and I. I didn't like him, so I spit on him. I only wanted my dad and my mom to get back together, and I was not happy with any guy that liked her otherwise. I sometimes feel like I deserved what happened because I guess if I wasn't happy with her being with another man and dad moved on with Redacted, then she felt I was stopping her from having a life with anyone else, so her focus was on me. Insane. I know that was a really long document, but I wanted to make sure we learned everything we needed to learn that's out there. And that was just from 1991 to 2000. So there's far more that we're going to be covering. Christy is odd. The whole family sounds like they're not playing with a full deck of cards. What is the deal with Christy? She's still all up in all of her business. I know, I agree with that. Thanks, K&B. We'll see you later. Thanks for all the entertainment. Here's to a true crime filled 2026. Yes, we hope to see you later. She was a con. I know. When Gypsy was caught shoplifting, Dee Dee told a security check her wheelchair. Whoa, never seen that one. Me either. She admitted that she was hooked on pills when she was arrested and went to jail. Wild. Anyways, we'll have another Gypsy Rose live tomorrow. We will continue with a deep dive. I'm going to mix it up. Maybe tomorrow we'll do crime scene and more Damona videos. And we will continue to cover the next part of the timeline. There's a lot. And I definitely want to cover the whole thing with the murder. So we also will be starting all the emails and text and all of that. So crazy. This Gypsy Rose darkness is just too much. Yeah, reality was not a regular visitor in the Blanchard home. This shit is real. I know, I think many things could be true at once in this case. As far as where we are, we're reading the documents. Well, she sure did sleep through withdrawal, right? I know. Anyways, shout out to you guys. I appreciate you for those of you who stuck around and watched for the past 3 hours. Please hit the like button, hype button, comment, do all of those things. We'll be back with a much shorter Gypsy video tomorrow. I'm going to try to space everything out so we're not here for so long, but I kind of like the longer lives sometimes too. I will be dropping a video on the Stefan Diggs allegations if you are into that. We will also be having another live later tonight for New Year's Eve. Is that all for today? No, I think I have a Kenzie live shortly, but I will keep you guys updated. Shout out to you guys for hanging out. I appreciate it. And if you don't come back for the New Year's Eve live, then I will catch you tomorrow on more true crime. I appreciate you guys all for hanging out, and please hit the like button, and I'll see you on the next one.